Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support the show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today, and welcome to episode 22 of Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast.
And I'm Carrick with ACG in full Technicolor.
Hell yeah. And today, we are joined by the Lord himself, coming to a realm near you. Host of the Iron Lords podcast, host of the Last Word podcast. He may be a cog, but he's not going to grind your gears. Ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by Lord Cognito. Thank you so much for making time, Cognito.
An absolute pleasure to be in the realm with the Dukes. I'm here with the Dukes, man. Absolute pleasure. I love you guys. Been listening for a while. Tremendous quality content. It is absolute pleasure to be in the realm of Defining Duke.
Thank you so much. I mean, we talk so highly of your show, and we've both been on it. I said to you on your own show that the word of mouth for Iron Lords is beyond strong. The amount of love your show gets, well-deserved. And today is a very special episode. For those who don't know, this is our E3 predictions episode. We had to bring Cog in for this one because we want to really diversify those thoughts, get some deep cuts on what's going on with Xbox. So we're going over all 23 first-party studios. We're going to be making our predictions. Then we'll be getting into the news. Still following that similar format. We're going to have the follow-up questions. We're going to have the warm-up questions. Don't worry. But I'm really, really excited about this episode. So get cozy is going to be a good one. For those of you who are new here, we do early access for the show every Thursday. If you want to listen for free, that's cool. We appreciate you as well. You can go ahead and listen on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that stuff. If you want to support it, help us out, patreon.com/laststandmedia. We just did Defining Duke Ultimate, our exclusive patron show, where we had a conversation about BioWare. I invited a BioWare YouTuber and podcaster, Exalted Marchin, to have a conversation on all things Mass Effect, Dragon Age, the future of remasters, all that stuff. Pretty good time, but I know all of you want to get into the meat of this show, so let's keep zooming along here. We're going to do some follow-ups. We like to converse with our audience, pick some things up from last week, talk about it. Again, throw some corrections in there. First one comes from GameSimp. Hey, Gobbler and Woodsman. Wow. On the last episode, you fellas asked about the Switch's online requirements for digital games. Luckily, no digital or physical games are locked when disconnected from the internet on Switch. Also, physical games do not download to the console. Some larger third-party games, such as LA Noire or Wolfenstein 2, require portions to be downloaded, though, because their file size exceeds the cartridge limit. This is what I was referring to. I was like, I think there was something last week.
LA Noire does. I own it.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. So that was it. And because we were talking about Dragon Quest builders, and I was like, I remember, I don't think I was connected to the internet when I was on vacation playing that. And I played a good like 50 hours just at night, you know, and so yeah, now we got an answer on that. Oh. Next is a follow-up from Old People Sex. Hey boys. He goes, here's the thing, right? He goes, y'all wanted to follow up on my name. It's an awesome name and y'all know it. I know you guys think it's awesome too. And this is interesting because I didn't even notice this. He goes, I know it because last week I sent in 2 questions. One was a very thoughtful and explained question about betas as advertisements. The other was about how Xbox made me change my name to Old People Fuck. Guess what one y'all read? Point proven my name is awesome. I can't argue it, man. I went and looked. That's proof there.
He got us talking.
This guy's a mass marketer. Last follow-up, and we'll get into our warm-up questions. Comes from Matthew Mangot. Hey, Dukes. Hope you're both having an above-average day. Not a question here, but a fun story to share. When I graduated university, I wanted to work in games, but had a political science degree and was interning at Salesforce in a sales role. I decided to take my Salesforce sales tactics and send a cold email to Phil Spencer asking how I could work for their team and the skills I thought young me had, figuring out his email from syntax/verification tools. Phil actually wrote back to me later that same day saying he appreciated my hustle and recommended the types of jobs someone like me would be a good fit for and CC'd a recruiter. He definitely didn't need to take the time to personally reply to me, but as a young professional, it meant a lot. I didn't end up working with Xbox. I now have my own consulting business, but wanted to share this story because as much as the executives can seem like disconnected figureheads, they are real people and in some cases, Cool people. Can't fucking wait for E3 and the fun I'll have listening to you guys discuss it. Matt, thank you for sharing that. That was an awesome story to see. Just, once again, putting Phil in that bright spotlight, and he is continuing to excel.
Absolutely.
All right.
We're going to find out Phil's a murderer.
Yeah, right. That would be the plot twist.
Dude, everybody is canceled right now. People are like, yeah, 55 years ago, this person, murdered a bunch of people, but somehow got away with it, and they're living, in Tahiti, and they're a movie star. And Phil, people are like, oh man, he's nice. I met him. He's really nice, even though I screamed at him across the road. I just have this feeling, though, somebody will be like, a lot of fans who contact him go missing, or I don't want to start a rumor, but you get my, it's just like,
and that was the last we heard of Matthew.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God.
All right, first warm-up question comes from Brett and S. Ali. Hello, gentlemen. Thank you for covering my question last week on air. I got a good kick out of it. After hearing my question discussed on air, I was reminded that write-ins, or rather any medium, are limited in their ability to communicate. Write-ins are better suited for more direct questions or requests, but they tend to fail when the question asks for more discussion. The person reading the question can't ask for clarity if context is needed, and the person writing in can't give any additional context when it is needed. That being said, I remember Colin mentioning that he intends to add live listener call-ins for Sacred Symbols Plus, which he has. Call-ins solve part of the problem with write-ins, but I'm aware that introduces its own set of problems. Just curious if live call-ins are in the work for either Defining Duke show. Thanks from the Rich Oil King. Yes, they are. I just wanted to make sure that was addressed nice and early. We are going to be doing live call-ins for Defining Duke Ultimate in the future. So we'll get people in and just have this kind of live show discussing whatever. It kind of is low prep and high discussion. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to starting that up in the coming weeks. I already talked to Dustin about it. So expect that. And I look forward to chatting with some of you. All right, now something we can all talk about. That's why I wanted to zoom through this, because I know I was eating up some time there. John Garlitz, our second write-in. Hey, Dukes. With E3 arriving shortly, we're about to get an influx of the most exciting thing to cause hype, game trailers. Recently, there has been a large outcry for gameplay trailers, and for good reason. But for me, I still remain skeptical. E3 has had notorious fake gameplay trailers of MotorStorm, Killzone 2, Cyberpunk in 2018, Watch Dogs, Anthem, the list goes on. My question is, should we really be excited for some games that seem too good to be true with their gameplay reveals? When it's apparent game companies can create a tech demo of their game which doesn't represent the actual product, and it seemingly works from a marketing standpoint, I'm not sure there's much incentive to tell the truth, as these games sell well on their initial release. As an aside, I've never played a Forza game and got Horizon 4 because I thought I could drive that huge hovercraft in the E3 trailer. Led me to a great game, but I do have a sad longing to drive that. All right, I've ate up enough time here. I want to pass it off to Cog, our wonderful guest. What do you think about the status of game trailers? Between, of course, gameplay, where sometimes we see some fakes there. Right. We also see a lot of CGI. Where do you stand on them? Do you buy into that hype? Or do you like to go in as blind as possible? Do you listen to creators? Let's hear it.
I mean, pretty much for me, it's funny with E3, there's been this interesting history with, I call the vertical slice. And, you get that trailer and then it's supposed to be like a representation of what the product will actually be. I'm not one of those guys that kind of go in on devs when they do that. Now granted, when the release comes out and it's drastically different, then yeah, criticism is awarded. I remember PS3 Killzone trailer, and I was like, oh my God, this is the greatest game I've ever seen in my life, kind of thing. And then, you get the finished product and it's different. So again, I understand what the purpose is and to get hype, but I actually got to defer to you, ACG, because you actually made some great points last Defining Duke in reference to sometimes the developer purpose and why they do these things, and sometimes how, from a development standpoint, to have something specifically ready for E3, it may be involved with that. But my final answer is I don't get too angry at it, because I think it's a marketing thing, and to drum up interest on conceptually what a title may be. But I do understand the gamer that says, 2-3 years later, hey, and you do the side by side and you see the watchdog, you be like, oh yeah, we didn't get that kind of thing. But I defer to ACG. You had some great points last week.
Yeah, I mean, they do. They cost a lot. Cliff Pazinski fighting the 800-pound gorilla was his GDC, where he talked for 2 hours about making a game. It was Lawbreakers, so admittedly it wasn't like a stellar success, but he did talk about the difficulty of all this stuff, about CGI. I will say one thing. No matter if a game trailer is fake, a CGI trailer is fake. Yeah. So, would I rather have a real trailer or a real gameplay moment? that may not turn out to be real, or a CGI one that I know for a fact 100% isn't real? I don't even need to answer that. Everybody's going to know what my answer would be. Like, yeah, that's just ridiculous. I want them gone, but I do understand what they cost. So, I mean, there's a tip for it. I just think with CGI, that doesn't mean anything. It means nothing. I like the look, but unless the game's a CGI game, at some point I'm like, that doesn't tell me anything. He's right about Watch Dogs, and Cognito's right about Killzone, which was, by the way, they tried to lie. I don't know if you guys remember. Sony said that was gameplay.
That was gameplay. Like, they lied. Dude, yeah,
and everybody behind the scenes was like,
yes, Halo Killer. I remember that.
Halo Killer.
Bro, it was over.
Halo Killer.
I was like, the cell processor is amazing.
Yeah. It was always about the cell, right? Sony's always got that way of being like, dude, we've got something. It's coming. Yeah, Lord, what was it? Last Guardian took a full generation to come. I remember PS3. I had friends buying that, and they were like, dude, Last Guardian can't be done on the PS or on the Xbox. And I was like, bitch, it can't be done on the PS3. Apparently. So, I don't know. I want to see as much realism as possible is my desire.
You share King's thoughts. King completely agrees.
Yeah. I've heard his thoughts on it.
Yeah, I don't have anything more to add on that because I think you both hit the nail on the head. I prefer my gameplay trailers. I like to go in as informed as possible. There's certain points I'll go in blind, but for the most part, I like to know what to expect because the way I look at it is then you double win, right? If you get something that really blows you away, it's like, damn, they really held it. I do have one issue, though.
Let's go.
I want to throw this out there. I think of Thief every time I think of E3, and I hate that because
you don't fucking mean Thief gangster version with the number in the word, do you?
2013 one or 14?
Dude, that ain't even a Thief game. Come on,
dude. Whatever it's called, we'll call it stealth game. Dude, stealth game. I remember watching that, thinking like, yo, this is like a Dishonored game, but you can steal. You're a little less lethal. I was like, oh man, this looks great. You play the game, everything is so linear, everything is so tied down, and then you get to that one level they showed at E3, and you're like, holy fuck, they really just made this one level and sold me completely.
Yes.
And everything else around that is so different. And I don't like when you play games and you could feel the E3 difference, the E3 level. There are so many games out there. It's less apparent now, but there were so many games that I saw time and time out where I was like, yep, this is the vertical slice they showed off for demo because it's way better than everything else.
That game ruined a lot of us were huge Thief fans. Yeah. I was a massive Thief fan, and they guttered me with that. Like, that was legitimately where you were like, dude, no one cared when they made this. I mean, they do, but you know what I mean.
I feel you, bro. I feel you.
Yeah. One of the worst games I've played, I gotta be real. Mike Poe is up next. Hello, Dukes. I was wondering if you all thought we might be seeing some Elite Controller Series 3 sometime this year. If so, do you all think there's a chance that Xbox's hardware team adds in DualSense-like features to the controller? To me, it makes sense because the third-party game devs have more of an incentive to flesh out their controller features since they will be on more than one console. At the same time, budget-conscious or other feature apathetic gamers won't be forced into paying for a more expensive controller with features they wouldn't want. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks, and have a doozy of a day. Just want to throw out there before we discuss, of course, one of our first episodes of Defining Duke, we talked a little bit about how Xbox was doing surveys and they were asking about controller features and if you're satisfied and if you want PlayStation 5 DualSense features on an Xbox controller. And I think the loud response was like, yes, we would love that because the DualSense has proven itself with a couple of games that it adds a little something. I don't know if it's the game changer that, at least from my experience, right? I haven't felt that quite yet. I love Astrobot. I think it can add something, though, and that's important. So I'd love to see Xbox support this with like a new Elite Series controller. Problem is the price tag, of course. There's something pretty hefty with that. But what do you gents think of a new Elite Series controller and it having DualSense-like features? And if not DualSense, what would they add?
Yeah, I'll jump. Okay, Gary, you want to jump in?
No, go for it.
Okay, yeah, I'll jump in. It's one of those things where I am definitely like an Elite controller guy. Like, I love having a premium product. And I remember when it first announced, when the initial one was like $150 or whatever it was. And I was like, well, gamers pay for it, because I was thinking it was just a me thing, being an enthusiast. But, when you have those triggers, the paddles, and the extra functionality, it really helps, especially with FPS and things of that nature. So now, in reference to DualSense like features. Like you said, Maddie, you know, we've seen the surveys go out where they're polling Xbox gamers to see if they would want that. So I wouldn't have any problem with it. I think it's additive, you know, adds, you know, a lot of functionality to it. And the last point I'll say is because I'm a Elite Controller 2 owner, and what bothers me to no end is that the share button is not in the new one. Like, so that button is a mode switch, right? So I spoke to we had Jason Ronald on IOP, and I'm like, you know, because they said basically the Elite Controller 2 will eventually get a firmware update to have the latency match what the current Series X controller is. But I'm like, can you do something to, I can map the Xbox Record that to that single button instead of switching modes. So I just want it selfishly for that purpose only, because it drives me nuts. I think one of the coolest features as a person who likes to share the social media is to just instantly press that button and then boom, my recording goes to Twitter or my screenshot or whatever. So that's just me being techie and geeky and ridiculous.
What about you, Carrick?
I mean, I don't know. I'm not near as high on the DualSense as everybody else. I did Astrobot, I did everything else, and yeah, it's cool. But is it $150 split the demographic cool? No. Like, I mean, at what point are we just like, and I get that Microsoft sent out a poll and said, do you guys want extra shit? And people said yes. That's about as surprising as waking up in the fucking morning. Of course they're going to say yes. Like, what are they going to do? I mean, how have you ever been like, man, we're in a relationship, it's pretty good, do you want it to get better? No. No. Let's keep it about mediocre to shitty. So I like the idea. I would love to see it, but I would have liked to have seen it day one. I think they fucked up in their recording, which I emailed out or I've DM'd or tweeted Phil a bunch of times about. He's never answered me. He's probably still mad I yelled at him, but I want the recording fixed on the Xbox because it doesn't record as long as a PS4.
Oh God, yes, yes, please.
That's ridiculous, like, especially for Windows. A company that runs Windows, you're like, dude, you couldn't get that shit right. Yeah. The idea that a button's not on there in the Elite, and then I will say that a lot of people I know in my Discord, and we're talking like 1,000 plus of those, I've probably heard 15 to 20 who've got the Elites have issues with quality. Yeah. That bothers me. Now, I don't know why, and I don't track it because I don't own one. Do you know what I did? I bought the $5 buttons for the back of my controller, and they work. Amazing. Gotcha. You push a button, it programs it, and now I have 6 buttons instead of just 4 on the back of mine. So it's like, I would like to see Sony continue with what they did, which is, remember, they sold the little attachment?
Yep.
Hey, if we're going to go to this point, then 3D printing is out. There's all these weird things you could do. I would love to see that. I would love to see them be like, hey, man, here's a small attachment. You just plug it into the Xbox One controller. It adds that button that he wants. Because, by the way, it can, because it's going through the USB into the... So you could have that have a firmware on it,
right,
where it would be like, now when he presses this button, it's going to do the record. And that would cause people to be able to jump in with their normal controller,
right,
and then upgrade for cheaper, because I'm just about cost, and I think this shit's already so expensive. $150 for a controller.
Yeah,
that's what old entire consoles cost.
Yeah. No, I hear you. That's why I was surprised at how well it was doing, you know, with sales and stuff like that.
Isn't that weird? I mean, especially now, I was surprised as well.
I mean, let's be honest, Xbox has sort of created this, like, where your best friend, like, you know, they got people who are willing to pay him money all the time because they're just like, I gotta support my boy. Like, here's my money.
Here's a cherry red controller, which is no different. No different. And they used to sell more, but I do think Microsoft nailed one thing. In the 360 era, they called it the customization generation, and it never came to be. But they were talking about people selling their own designs and games.
Design labs and all that. Yeah.
Right, design labs. But what they did do, man, is the ability to go online and make your own controller.
Yes.
And that sounds so dumb, but that's all. I never buy a normal controller. I buy that because I'm like, why wouldn't I? If I want my own shell and I want to design it myself, I just go there. And I think, I think that's primo. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I do like that. They've created that big time.
Yeah. I mean, it's just really a price tag thing, and at that point, it could end up like the Vita, which is supposed to be your little companion to your PlayStation, and it's just so expensive. People aren't buying into it, and so it just becomes obsolete. I worry about that a little bit. So I would love to see them do it, but I think it's gonna be more hit and miss than it may already be with DualSense support, with the Xbox side of things, especially.
Also, let me add real quick, anybody out there who wants to use your PS5 controller on your Xbox, if the Brooks adapter hasn't firmware upgraded, I'm sure it will, and those are $44.
Nice.
And I use one to use my racing wheel on all my consoles, controllers. And so I don't know in particular if you can currently do PS5 to Xbox yet, but Brooks and a couple others, I mean, Brooks became a US. I mean, it was like this big. You just plugged it in. You plugged any controller into anything. It was like, oh, so nice. So if we get to that point and you really want to use one on the other, pretty soon, if not already, you should be able to as well.
Hell yeah. Kaio Kano, might have said that name wrong. Good day, Mr. M and Carrot, as well as Cognito. Lots of discussion on Aloy's face being chubbier in certain pictures, and people on both sides arguing got me thinking of two questions. One, what do you guys think of the situation? Both sides seem to be pretty annoying, or annoyed, sorry, about, well, they are annoying, about opinions. Seems pretty hypocritical to me. Two, how much do you fellas bench and do you exercise? As a fitness gamer, it's always kind of funny, the stereotypes of us is all fat nerds. Hope you have a sexy week. I wanted to throw this in here and just mention really quickly, I've been taking a lot of feedback in for our show, reading the comments, engaging on Patreon. I put out a tweet asking for some constructive criticism. A lot of people want us to sort of spread out a little bit more on what we talk about. Of course, it is always and forever will be primarily Xbox PC. You're going to see that in this episode, sort of how we're laying it out. But to talk about some other things, and kind of because what's happened is we've gotten into this rhythm of talking Xbox, Bethesda, and so I think by adding a couple more things in there, we can really switch up our conversation some more, give us some more room to breathe. So one of the big topics this week, not enough to be exactly, and it's also not super relevant to Xbox, but I just thought it was interesting, is people are pissed that Aloy's face is a little bit chubbier. And for some people, like, it doesn't make sense. She's running around surviving. How'd she gain some weight? I don't know why this fucking matters, boys. I don't know why this matters, but it does. People are discussing it. What's our quick thoughts on, first of all, Aloy, and then we'll get into the more important thing, which is how Cognito outbenches the shit out of me.
Well, we start with, I saw, Carrick, you had some funny tweets in reference to this. I always follow your timeline. It's always hilarious. Look, man, you know, she's out there, man. She's in the wilderness. Things may have changed, man. She ain't got time to be dolled up every 5 minutes to be in front of the game. I mean, you know, to get that emotional about it, I don't get it. Now, yeah, if you're a fan of the character and you see a slight difference, okay, I'll notice that. Or, you know, the voice actress change, okay, maybe that. But, you know, when we're talking about the physical appearance of a person, and it's not that dramatic, but to some it is. To me, it's of no consequence. It really doesn't matter. So, you know, God bless the people who really lose sleep over that. But
I saw people taking the motion capture actress that was used to model Aloy after, and compare her and see, like, has she gained weight? I'm like, dude, really, back the fuck up and live for a sec. Like, can we really think about what we're doing here? Doesn't matter. Let her live her life, right? Like,
that's what I'm saying.
Come on.
Listen, man. Listen.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get ahead of Carrick there.
You good, Carrick. I'm curious of what he had to say, because his timeline was lit. So I'm dying to hear this.
She's a fake character, so she doesn't have to live. She can do whatever the fuck she... Like, I mean, dude, it was, I get why somebody wants to know if they change the camera or the actor or actress, because it happened with Control, very much with Control, by the way. Control's main actress, I have watched her, and I didn't know that's who it was. Like, they definitely adjusted stuff, because somebody was like, oh, it's mocap, it has to be. By the way, no, that's absolutely incorrect. If that was true, that it was mocap, it would have to be. Gollum would look like a fucking actor who played Gollum. He wouldn't look like Gollum. You get some people who are trying to defend, like, or not defend it, but come on that side saying stuff that technically is really stupid. Yeah. And instead, you should just be like, it's a fake character. They do whatever. She's fucking wearing jorts already. The fact that she's got her lower calves completely, and scratches on a single briar have killed people. Like, go play Oregon Trail and watch people die of dysentery. You can die just walking outside. If we're going to worry about her gaining a little weight, be happy. Fuck, man. She's eating well.
She's eating. That's what I said.
Yeah. I mean, if you have anything you need to worry about people's body, go look at Chris Helmsworth and his little tiny baby legs and tell me that that's not something you need to worry about, especially as you get older and get a bad back. And by the way, 305 is my current bench.
He got me right now. You know what I'm saying? About 280.
I got you at 305?
Bro, it's been a while. I'm just ramping back up.
Dude, and I tore my sternum doing it.
I'm 280.
Yeah,
I'm ramping up slow.
bench is sort of dumb, right?
Yeah.
At least my personal opinion is bench is a young man's game.
Yeah.
It's 18-year-olds
Exactly.
at
Like
high
me,
school.
I'm all about form now. So it's like,
Yeah,
my thing is, my goal is not to injure myself on the way out.
Def Leppard's guitarist is in really good shape, and people are like, "You're not working as hard." And he's like, "Dude, seriously, if my knee even slightly like tingles, I stop."
Bro.
He's like, "Why? Why go 2-3 weeks with like this bad thing?" But anyway, I talked over you.
Is it bad that at the age of 25, I'm hitting that, like where I'm like,
dude, that's why
I'll be
we
on
were
a jog. And I'll feel my knees start to tweak, and I'm like, I'm walking.
Yeah,
I'm walking.
bro. It's like live to fight another day. I've seen these young kids in the gym, and they're going on, they're grunting, and they're making the sound, and I'm like, and then you know how it is. You know them dudes in the gym.
I have some stories, man.
Then next week or whatever, you see the cast, you see the bro. You know what I'm saying? I heard I'm out of commission, and I'm like, because I remember you. You was that guy that was going too crazy, not proper form, trying to make a show in the gym instead of actually doing the exercise correctly.
They you'll carry those forever. Like I hurt my back in middle school and still hurt.
Yep.
And you like if backs and stuff like that, you can hurt. We've had people where you go into a rounds for boxing. In the second round, the young guy's fucked up because he's hurt himself a week later, and you get some dude who's 60 in there still going in his fourth round because he's been pretty careful.
Yep.
And I think it's pretty. I mean, fitness is awesome, but man. Some of the stuff I even used to do, I look back and I'm like, wow, how did I not blow a knee?
Yeah, absolutely.
Look at Ronnie Coleman. Has to walk down the stairs backwards.
Backwards, bro.
Backwards because his knees don't work anymore. And you can build it up to a point and then you just break it down. It's like you get to this weird point, and if you go any further, now you're just doing damage. So it's too bad.
Last point I'll say, Matty, is just that, it's one of those things I think as gamers always try to promote it because it's like, let's be honest. We're sitting, we're playing games,
sedentary,
the food, and it's like try to get out, do some movement, break it up. And the incentive I give is like, yo, you want to be around for all these great games that's coming, man. You know what I'm saying? Like I need to be around and healthy, so that's my motivation. So hashtag health is wealth, ninja moves, all that stuff I've been posting up.
There we go. No, I love that. I love that. That's so. I tell people all the time when it comes to me and my workout motivation, it's not the same thing every day. Like it's always something different. Like some days it is like that. Yo, I want to see this game out. Like I need to take care of the heart. I need to go on a run. But some days it's like I want to look good. Like I want to look sexy.
There you go, flexes. Stay sexy.
Right. Have you ever done something in real life and you've been embarrassed? Like there's been stuff where because I do boxing, but then one weird thing I don't do, I can't do, even no matter how many hours of workout. I went hiking one time and I run religiously. I work out religiously, and I went hiking and I almost died. Like because it's doing the skier move and weird moves. And holy shit, dude, we went up to, and my friend who's in really good shape, it was like 12 miles, but he's like, how do you feel? And I'm like, just shut the fuck up. Can we get to where we're going, or I'll kill you on the park right here on the trail. I will kill you. And that's what's funny about like working out, and you can hurt yourself doing that too. That's another thing. I've seen people in really good shape do basketball and then go to soccer, break an ankle because they have just no clue on what they're doing. You should get out, man.
Different muscles.
Yeah, you should get out. People don't enough, and I'll talk to people, and they're like, I've sat for a long time. I feel crusty when I sit. For too long.
I remember talking to you about that.
It's like
I get
joints
almost like
get
I need
crusty.
a lubrication for my shoulders, and like I need to just move. And if I don't, you start to get into this rhythm where you're like, maybe I need to rest a little bit more. My body's a little achy. But you're
and then that's all you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Because then you start to get that crust, and you're like, well, I'm just not moving. I'm just stiff now. Like that's what's happening.
Yeah,
it's not pain from anything else.
That's real, bro.
Till you throw your
last question
back out when you're having sex, though, you haven't lived. I'm just saying.
Wait, hold on.
I said
I was like trying to be professional.
If you, no professionalism here. The first time you throw,
I was like
I'll
trying to
just say
like,
this.
oh, Carrick, please speak.
I've seen somebody throw out I've seen somebody the next day after throwing out like a hamstring, and being like, "You weren't at the gym," and they're like, "No, I wasn't."
He's blowing something out.
Yeah, dude, no lie. He told me later he was running after his wife because they were going to have sexy time. He leapt up and he put his knee on the bed and tried to bounce. And if your calf isn't, you can't bounce off your knee. That's not the way everything works. And man, that thing tore. And he's like, dude, it's so embarrassing. He's like, that's when.
I feel like every man's had to have, you know, in their young adult life, has to have hurt themselves in that act.
Like carrying somebody through the threshold, like at a wedding. I'm all, no way, man. I'm not throwing my back out that day. In particular, like you walk in the room. That's the romantic part. I'm still here.
Ain't no chivalry. You gonna walk.
Yeah, I gotta get in there.
Respect. Oh man.
With that, number 5. Hey Dukes, this is Sean Mason writing in. He didn't write that part, but I forgot to say his name. Where the fuck did this story about employees at Bethesda? A lot of cursing from our audience this week. Where the fuck did this story about employees at Bethesda leaving because of a change in culture after Microsoft surface? How can reputable games journalists actually run with this story? When has it been confirmed to be a lie? Best, Sean M. Yeah, I feel like I was one of the first people to like, and I don't mean like, oh, I broke the story, by the way, but I saw a lot of folks coming out afterwards and being like, this is not true. I don't need to mention the person's name because I feel bad. This person's getting dragged a lot when it's like, look, he did what anyone else is doing. He heard something, he reported it. He did it in a stream, no less. Like it was in passing and just a lot of people grabbed it.
Oh, was it just in a stream?
Yeah, it was in a stream. I saw it was like 30 minutes in or something. It kind of just said like, yeah, and by the way, completely false information. So there is that responsibility that should be taken, but like I get it, right?
Stream is like, back and forth with your if you're like, hey, I just heard. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, man. It definitely blew up in his face a little bit. That's why you always want to. It's a lesson for everyone. Just to always be careful with what you share because you never know, and you can really lead people astray. And so a lot of people were upset about it. But yeah, it surfaced from a particular content creator. A lot of people outside of myself came in, shut it down, probably with more authority and credibility. Like Jez Corden came in, was just like, it's not true at all. And so, you know, I don't know how it started getting around. I think it really wasn't even journalists covering it. I saw more so just fans getting riled up over it. And I was like, no, like if anything, Bethesda's hiring more. You don't even need a source to see that. You can go on their LinkedIns. You can go on the job listings for all of their sites. They're expanding a ton. Like they have a lot more money. And one thing Microsoft really talked a lot about with their purchase of Bethesda was like when we got Mojang, they were like, we learned from them more than they learned from us. And so we keep them sort of independent doing their own thing. Same thing with Bethesda. Now that's believing a corporation. So I get it. You don't want to put all your trust there, but I feel like when there's proof in the pudding with what we've seen with Microsoft and Mojang, like I feel like I can believe that they're going to keep Bethesda as internally independent. I think externally they're going to want to look a part of things. But yeah, there hasn't been any change of culture that's resulted in this leaving of staff. People have retired. Someone from Bethesda actually came out and said, like, people have retired, but no one's left and just been like, I'm out of here. This sucks. So I just wanted to firm that up real quick before we really.
Do you guys know any really weird, other than me? Do you guys know any really weird, like off the wall or a little bit off kilter people? Maybe like the crazy lady on the, you know,
I do a
your
podcast
grandmother.
One every week.
Yeah, exactly. My grandmother was pretty odd. She had some really odd thoughts, you know, especially as she got older. I will tell you this. Somebody may have left Bethesda because they did think that was going to happen. But that doesn't mean that's what happened.
Right.
Yeah.
People are weird.
Right.
And there are paranoid, there are conspiracy theorists, there are people who I've been hired, I worked at a company that 12 times got bought. 12 fucking times.
Wow.
And a lot of people left because of, they just didn't want to work for the next company. So maybe that's what happened. I'm just
possible,
giving I just feel really bad for a guy on a stream because I know on a stream, I don't know about you guys, but if on a stream, if I heard something, I would probably say, listen, bitches, I don't know if this is true, which he probably didn't do.
He didn't preface it.
You got to inject the warning with the data, I guess, would be the proper term.
Protect your data, protect yourself, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
I agree.
You know, there's people try to like, you just can't let those people go like, oh, he just doesn't want to be wrong. You can't let them win when you like, because some people will intentionally not protect themselves so they can say like, see, I knew. Look, see, I knew. And it's like, dude, it's just better. Just cover yourself. Let people know, like, especially because it's true. Like, that's what I always said with Starfield and many other things. It's like, well, this is what's being heard, but it's not.
That's why I was on you, because I was like, you gave the caveat. You prefaced it. You never said, like, it was definitive. So I had to ride for my man on that one.
No, and if you hear something's definitive, you can say, hey, I hear it's definitive.
Right.
I don't know
I just feel it's awkward for everyone when you see a lot of journalists walking back on stuff lately. You know, once again, no need to name names. I don't think it's fair, but you just see, I've been seeing it more and more lately. It's like, look, man, people trust you. Like, it's okay. Like, you can take your time with your scoops. Like, no one's in a rush. And I get it. Like, it's for some people, it's their business to just do scoops. But I'm just seeing more and more people kind of go out on a limb to be the next guy.
I think what it is the fan bases on both sides are so ravenous to pick up any disparaging information on the other side. So they want to run with it immediately and say, this source said this, ha ha ha, and throw it in the other side's face. And that's what's happening. The gamer has really gotten involved with that. And it's sad because, again, you have good people sometimes who, like, you know, Carrick saying that they're just saying something on the stream or whatever. Now, could he have prefaced it? Absolutely. But, you know, I think that's what's happening. I think people are utilizing information for ammo in the war, so to speak. Yeah. And that's what's going on.
Yep. 100%. All right. Those are our warm-up questions. Thank you, everyone, for writing in. As per usual,
thanks.
We'll have 5 questions at the end. And I don't know if I think I threw in one question someone wrote about our news, with Far Cry 6. So we'll hear from the audience a little bit in the middle of the show. But otherwise, it's time for the main portion of this show, the E3 predictions. So we have every single Xbox first-party studio, Bethesda studio here. We're going to talk about each of them individually. We're going to highlight what games they've made for those who are unfamiliar and sort of lay out our predictions.
All right, I'm going to get something to drink for all this because there's a lot of fucking...
No, please.
Get ready. Fuel up.
Yeah, because we still got news after this, too. That's the great part, right? This is going to be a meaty show.
Let's get it.
All right. We'll get it started once Carrick and Carrick will get back in the middle of it. Plus, this one, I already know what he's going to say, so it's probably good he stepped away. First one's 343, best known for Halo. We know they're going to be there. That much has been really marketed heavily by Xbox. The question is what to expect. Cog, you're our guest. I would love to pass this off to you to get us started.
Yeah, man. 343. The main event is here. We have arrived. Hey, we know what we're here for. We know what we're here for, man. It's that infinite talk. You know, it's time. You know, we know the history. You know, obviously, again, on the record, I want to reiterate, on the record, when I saw them displayed last with Halo Infinite, I was a fan of what I saw. It felt like, if you're a fan of classic combat, evolved, that aesthetic, you know, it spoke to me from a nostalgia vibe. So obviously, you know, me and you here, Maddie. You already see the vibe. So,
we're on the same page,
and I'm not capping. You can look like a former IOP stream live reaction. I was excited. Now, granted, once they take that and everyone dissects it, okay, there's a little pop up here, and then we all know the infamous Craig face, and then that went viral, and then it was all over from that point, right? But at the end of the day, it's up to them to show how much improvement they have made, you know, in a year's time. Obviously, I think Staten. Hopefully, you know, he's taking over. He's involved now from Bungie. And look, just showcase it. You know, the hope is multiplayer will also be showcased. Hope, you know, the hope is also maybe a new mode, you know, whether it be some type of a battle royal or / battlefield type big, you know, big team kind of thing. And just here's my thing with 343. We know what you're going to do. Just showcase well. That, like, present well. That's all. Because one thing I always tell a lot of the Xbox community is one thing I have to give Sony credit is presentation, the way they present, you know, whatever their big first part. That's it. Just showcase it well, and hopefully they'll be fine. But, yeah, that's the big one. You know it's coming, and I'm ready, man. I'm ready. We've been waiting a long time.
I am, too. I'm like you. I liked what I saw. Visually, you know, you could tell there was some need for adjustments. I couldn't tell in real time. I feel like my brain was in a million and one places while that was all going on. So I think a lot of people were pretty, you know, because you couldn't see that close up of Craig until you freeze frame that. Exactly. But yeah, I agree. 343 needs to show well more than anything. They need to, like, I hope they just do it just by, like, letting it speak for itself rather than be like, here's a side by side of what it was and what it is now, because that's not how it's supposed to be, right? Like, let the fans handle that because they will. You already know it. They're already doing it with screenshots. Where my head's really been at with 343 is what will we expect from them? We know there's going to be gameplay. We know we're going to see the game. Do we get a release date? I think so. Do we get a multiplayer beta? I think yes. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, like, they're gonna do something like that. I think it, you know, getting people excited. Like, if they do a good showing and then you got a beta after that, it's like you can get your hands on it this week. Try this thing out. I feel like that helps them a lot. You know, multiplayer is gonna be free to play for Halo Infinite, so maybe their strategies, you know, it might alter a little bit because they know it's an easy buy-in for people. They can get people through the door a little bit quicker, so they don't need to really sell it that hard through a beta because they're not really purchasing the game directly for it. You just be purchasing for a campaign that's expanding. But I feel like they're going to go for it, especially if there's a new mode. You want to figure out, like, where the public's at with it. create a little buzz, do a limited beta. I would be all about that. Now, Carrick, your opinion on 343 is quite interesting as usual. What are you expecting? Well, I shouldn't say what are you expecting for the showing here, but where do you stand on what's going to be likely shown? And I think I know your excitement level, so I don't need to ask that, but just, fire away.
It's negative excitement, if it's possible.
Negative excitement. Yeah, that's understood.
Keep it okay.
I don't, I don't really have anything good to say about them since Master Chief Collection. So, like, I'll wait to see what they show. I didn't care about the Craig face because I didn't notice while it was playing. I did notice that while I am a Halo 1 above all other... Well, Halo 1 and 3 above... 3 was amazing. Jesus. But I'm a big Halo fan, so the aesthetic was fine, but the lack of, there was some really weird stuff going on. I just want them to show it so we can see it. Modes, I don't get as interested in multiplayer modes as some people unless we see them, and they're awesome. Forge, is there a Forge? Those kind of things I'd like to be answered, but I would say I'm just pretty low energy on it. They could only surprise me right now, if that makes sense.
Okay, it's
only up from here. Not mad at them, just sort of waiting to see what we're getting.
Yeah, I mean, it's show and prove time, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I hear where you're coming from.
It very much is.
Yeah, it's show and prove. We know the stakes. We've seen the follies. We've seen the mistakes. Obviously, the Halo 5 with the uneven, the campaign, but the multiplayer was great. The pressures are they have to do what they have to do. So I understand your mindset there.
Yeah, 100%.
Maddie?
So 343 guarantee we're going to see them. It's a matter of what they show and how they show it. I'm going to go out and say I think there will be a beta. That's one of my big predictions for that, but could be wrong. Next up, Alpha Dog Studios. This is acquired through the Bethesda deal. This one, less to talk about. They did Wraithborn in 2012 on iOS and Monstro City Rampage on iOS in 2017. Wraithborn was like an action RPG, whereas Monstro City Rampage reminded me a little bit of like Forge of Empires, that game that always has commercials.
Yeah.
Seems like the Bethesda mobile game dev for the most part. I know some Bethesda game studios, like Montreal did the Fallout Shelter game. So they have a lot of studios that tinker with mobile stuff. The only prediction I can think of for this is if anything they are working on, like maybe something supporting Wise, or they're doing mobile stuff for Starfield, I would imagine. But I don't really have, this isn't a big profile studio, so I don't have much to say. I don't know about you guys.
I'm with you, man. I'm in the same boat. Like, this was one on the list. I was like, okay, it's possible. I just look at them as something that may be valuable to Microsoft long term as they, look into getting xCloud and mobile in the other regions. But as far as E3, I don't really see anything just yet. I mean, we'll see what happens, but I'm not really there with them just yet as far as being definitely going to be there kind of a deal.
Yeah. For those who don't know, by the way, it's in alphabetical order, so that's why Alpha Dog. Just all right. Carrick, anything, or should we just move on?
No, I'm looking at their Twitter. I just decided and they haven't posted. Like, it's been a lot. March 11th, they reposted behind saying something. That's it. Right. So I think either it's a surprise or it's them backing up stuff and working, which is fine too. They might be working.
I think they're a support studio mostly anyway, so that's fine, and that's, like Cog said, it's going to be useful for them later on. Now into the big dogs. Arcane Studios, best known for Dishonored, Prey, Deathloop coming out this year. There have been rumors of a new IP, a vampire-style game coming from Arcane. The question is, do we see them in any way, shape, or form? Because them, and we'll talk about Tango Gameworks, they're sort of the X factors where they have stuff coming, but it's PlayStation exclusive. Deathloop's PlayStation exclusive, Ghostwire Tokyo PlayStation exclusive. So with Arcane, I'm very curious to get both your thoughts on this one. If they're making a showing at all, are they going to reveal that new IP? I'll pull up some extra details on it to kind of supplement the conversation, but whoever would like to go first with that, by all means.
Sure. Eric, you got it?
I don't even know what they would be showing. I would love to see them say Prey 2's on the way.
Oh,
that would be sick. Yeah, that would be. In fact, the other ones, because you know me, I'm not as huge of a fan as some of those other games as other people are. Prey is probably the number one that I would like to see a sequel to. There isn't a lot that these guys would probably. I'm just looking at their time frame and trying to see what their time frame is for.
So here, this might help round out some of your conversation. I should have provided this initially, so I apologize. Games Radar posted an article called Omen, and this was 8 hours ago. Omen is a rumored vampire-themed immersive sim from Arcane.
They're the ones doing that. Yeah. Okay.
And it says, in 2021 predictions post from Windows Central, Arcane was brought up with minor details on its rumored fantasy game that is reportedly codenamed Omen. Our man Jez Corden writes that Arcane's new project is immersive sim and vampire themed. It has already teased a vampire emoji on Twitter that may or may not be related to E3 predictions. I'm looking at the tweet now. Let's see when this is from. This is May 28th. So
shout out to Jez.
Yeah, I trust Jez, man. I'm just saying, I trust Jez. So
that's what I heard.
That increases my my hopes a little bit, but I would love to see them there. Arcane's probably like my favorite studio outside of Bethesda game. It is my favorite studio underneath the Bethesda banner, outside of Bethesda Game Studios, which just scratches a particular itch for me. But man, I would love to see them just come out and announce something new. That would be so exciting. I think Xbox probably wants that, right? You'd have to imagine, like, it's probably awkward saying, like, we're going to market this exclusive PlayStation game and only this from one of our big studios that was acquired in this deal. Maybe a little bit too reactionary. I don't think it matters long term, but nonetheless, I think there's a chance we see them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's time. You know, based on the development cycle and stuff like that. Obviously, we heard the rumor. I've heard that rumor. Shout out to Jez. You know, it would be cool. I think it's a possibility. So I'm gonna go lean on the possibility of yes, it's gonna happen. It's about time development wise, and it would be a nice little boon, you know, to have that announcement for Microsoft at their E3 presentation.
Yeah. All right, let's keep moving along here then. Next up, Bethesda Game Studios, Elder Scrolls, Fallout. Next up, Starfield. We saw Starfield in the key art. It's pretty expected it's going to be there. Been a ton of reports like, yeah, it's coming at E3. You're going to see it. The question is, what do you see? Do you see gameplay? Do you see engine trailer, teaser? Do we see a release window?
This is a good one.
You're chomping at the bit.
I'm ready, man. This is the one I'm excited for. I know, you know, Twitter is I'm not allowed to be excited for something I don't know about. I know Twitter said this is wrong. But look, I'm a sci-fi guy. You know, Maddie, we've been in our Mass Effect legendary bag recently, right? We've been rocking and rolling. So I've got that itch, you know, and just I'm curious to see Bethesda in that space. Like, what is it? You know, what goes on there? So to your question in reference to how they're going to present, I mean, I feel you have to have, I don't know if you have to have in-depth gameplay reveal. I think you may have to have a little cinematic trailer first to get a premise of what's going on. But if they could show a little gameplay, even if it's minute, I would like that. And as far as release date, I know on a couple of podcasts I was joking that's like a pie in the sky. You know, I don't think we're having that. But, you know, just to show that this thing exists, it's real, the premise, what's going on. Hopefully Todd comes out with the brown jacket. You know what I'm saying? And then, you know what I'm saying? We get some nice, you know, discussion and get the crowd pumped up, you know. I'm hyped for Starfield. I'm very curious. And the fact that, you know what it is, as an Xbox guy, you want to hear about the new IPs as opposed to what I call, you know, the burger, shake, and the fries of Halo 4. You know what I'm saying? You want to know what's the new stuff. And that Starfield represents the new. So I think that's where my excitement lies. So I'm curious. I think we get a cinematic and we get hopefully some gameplay. But
okay.
Yeah.
Carrick, I know we talked about this one to death, but of course, just for the sake of our predictions, what are you expecting for Starfield in the terms of what will be shown?
Maybe one of those little, you know, you can be a hero, and it's like 3.2 second cuts,
in
like
a world.
MTV cuts.
In a world.
Yeah. You can be this, you can be that. I would be okay with that. I would also be okay with them like showing a spaceship landing on something, taking off, walking around, whatever. You know, I the only comparison I actually currently have is Outer Worlds. So in my brain, I'm just seeing Outer Worlds looking better, and that's it. Idea. So we'll just have to see. I don't know. You know, if I was a fanboy or something, I would be like, it would be amazing if Todd came out and he was like, you know, we talked about Todd rays, you know, back in the day with Fallout 76, but I'm gonna actually show them to you because we got different planets, and you know, And because none of these guys want to bring up their past like jokes and failings, but instead I think he's probably one of the few that would.
Yeah, he would.
And he'd be out there and he'd be like, hey man, we talked about Todd Rays, maybe it didn't work out, but what about this? Right. And then there's sort of a joke, and you see these, or what if you saw rays coming through, like, you know, and you walk out of a you see these rays of light, you come out into like a planetscape, and people would immediately be like, that's on purpose. There's no way, like they were. I don't know if they'll be that jokey. I do think that my opinion has changed on one thing, which is that if all these games are moving around, and if Microsoft feels good for fall, we'll see less. If they do not, I actually feel like we will see more. And the reason why is because I feel that Microsoft knows Sony is doing quite well in their sales. Microsoft's obviously doing well, but Microsoft has an issue with doing well and doing amazing. The 360 is the only one that's like, that thing was just insane. And even people who were like fans were like, holy shit, everybody wants a 360. Yeah. I could see them being like, look past Christmas because here comes, you know, Starfield, you know. And people don't joke around. You know, if they do a summer release, do they show a kid looking up at the stars? And they're like, this is my PR head, because these are the things I would do. Is I would be like, what's a kid, you know, the end of well, I don't want to. Something. The end of a certain game
I know.
Shows a Starfield. And the idea of like seeing that and being like, you know, we've always wanted to go to the stars, and this summer you'll be able to fly into, you know, those kind of things that grab fans. Microsoft's never been great at it.
Yeah.
The only time I will say that they've been great is a weird time where they did audio. There was a particular song by Bass Nectar they did for Forza. It was at the starting of the E3 event. They had a particular song called With Me, I think it was called, and it was just showing Forza. And I remember people in the streams, and everybody was like, this might be the perfect culmination of music and like footage. And I want them to hit that, and they haven't. They haven't done it.
Valid.
Breaking Benjamin and Halo 2. Whether you like Breaking Benjamin or not, that shit was like,
that was banging.
You know, that was banging. People were like, "Oh my god!" They were a thing, a sandwich. That Gears.
Yes, I was just
Mad World.
Bro.
Is that what
that
you
was
say?
it?
Dude,
Yeah, for me.
People talked about that, and it was a fucking it was like a dude running and a song, and people talked about it for half a year.
Yes.
Microsoft needs to figure out a way to do that.
Completely agree with you. Go ahead, man.
You had those moments too where the music can absolutely destroy it. I think of Andromeda. I'm only human after. Oh my god, bro. That was every fucking YouTube video I clicked on in the month of March. I was like, get it out of my. I hate that song.
And if they do it right, dude,
hate that song.
If they do it right, I mean, especially vocals. Red Dead Redemption at the end when you ride. You also have Alan Wake with Fallen Gods or whatever during the music.
Persona,
stage.
baby, it's all music.
Persona. You have all these things, and Microsoft. Well, imagine that. Imagine if Microsoft comes out and it's just Phil standing there and you hear the Persona music playing. Like those kind of things are PR that I don't know why they don't do, because that's what's magic, and that's what Sony did with Square remake of Final Fantasy VII. They did music. And then you were like, "Oh my god!" Or it was music or an audio cue. I can't remember.
It triggers something in you, right? Music evokes emotion.
It evokes emotion.
I interrupted. I think Cognito was going to say something.
No, I mean, you guys are fine. Give it back to Betty. You guys are nailing it with the whole, you know, music evoking emotion, and I feel like again, it's something like there's only been sparse moments when it's happened, but when it's happened, they've hit it. It's truly been magical, and I would love for them to go back to. I think it's a great point. Go ahead, Betty, like you were saying.
I was just gonna say, I think mostly of Bethesda Game Studios, I say this is more the moment where I think Xbox considers extending. I said to the point of redundancy that I think this is the E3 that if you're going to reach and make like a long-term announcement, this is probably the year you do it, right? Like PlayStation just said before our show started recording, they were like, yeah, God of War 2022, it's PS4, PS5. They talked about Horizon. They're like, yeah, we're aiming for holiday. Seems like some things for their big hitters are uncertain. Like if Xbox is looking to start gaining some steam, I feel like this is where you hit them. Like if you're playing a competitive game, like I think you just go for the cheap shot here. Like you say, like, even though we always joke about this, right? We always joke about our Fallout team. Carrick, you and I are like, yeah, they're going to make a Fallout team. Let's say they actually did that, right? Even if that's like 3 years out, 4 years out. Yeah. Say something now, right? Say something now, because right now you got your opponent in a vulnerable position.
Absolutely.
But Maddie, what if, I just want to say, what if it starts out, once again, Phil's out there, all music, and you just hear the Fallout 3 music start.
Oh.
One of my favorite title menus.
You might I don't want to watch the world, Oregon, bro.
And you have that come up, and then you have them, maybe it's like a record scratch where that song stops and a new song starts, and they're like, oh, sorry, wrong Fallout. We're talking about Fallout 5. And people are like, what the fuck?
What?
Yeah, dude.
Now you shaking the earth.
Cognito.
Now you shaking the earth right now. Let's go.
No shit, that's why I need to work for Microsoft PR.
Hire him now. Hire
because, dude, these are the kind of things that would have me, who is really pretty laid back, going like, are you that was intelligent. Sony, and by the way, Sony does do
they're the best.
They do a better job.
Yes, it's no doubt.
Microsoft has had big hits that I remember longer.
Yes.
And I think they're very. This would be an amazing time for them.
I agree.
It would be the best time for them to do it.
Last point I want to say, because you guys are on fire, is that I think that the Bethesda, what I'm hoping from the Bethesda ZeniMax / acquisition is one thing about when I used to go to E3, and, before the world, was normal, and their shows. If you physically went to a Bethesda event, the presentation was second to none. That was always one of my favorite stops. Oh, absolutely. It was always a fun time. And the thing about them is they know how to present. And what I'm hoping for with this acquisition is that mindset, that culture permeating, getting the Aaron and the Aaron in the room and to say, hey, maybe we should do it with this type of pizzazz and this type of flair, because that's the only Achilles heel. Sometimes Microsoft will have these great games, but they just don't showcase them well. And you want this type of influence, like you're saying, Carrick, just to have that energy, get the fans pumped up. That goes a long way. And to your point, I just feel like that's why the Bethesda fan is as loyal and as passionate as they are to the brand because of the way they do their thing. So I'm looking forward to it.
That could be the sneaky biggest benefit from that acquisition. It's just the way that culture kind of gets into Xbox. Last thing, because I realized I didn't say anything about Starfield. I think they're going to do like more of an extended. I thought at first gameplay, but then I thought about it more after I posted my video, and I was like, it would make more sense. Just I would like. I always say, if I'm revealing a game, you're going to see gameplay first. Like I don't want to waste my money on these stupid CGI trailers and everything. I do think because there may be a long road to Starfield, I think you get like an extended cinematic trailer. I think because we don't know what Starfield is, and I still think gameplay could sell that because then you know truly what it is. But just with how companies operate, I'm putting my money on Bethesda comes out. Here's an extended cinematic trailer. Here's what Starfield actually is, kind of the grounds of the lore. And then in QuakeCon, maybe we see like a gameplay trailer in August. I think that's what they do. Just my personal guess.
No doubt.
We'll see.
They don't have taglines either. I just thought about this. So remember when Microsoft did the tagline of the kids shooting each other with paintball guns in the subway, and they removed it because of, I believe there was a school shooting or whatever. Microsoft doesn't have a lot of good taglines. And when Maddie was talking about that, I was like, imagine like 2001 A Space Odyssey music playing, and it just like shows a planet and it just says go anywhere. Microsoft or Sony's always been good at like their taglines for commercials and stuff, and you buy in, and then Microsoft does a Connect E3 where everybody's wearing raincoats, and you're like, dude, how did we get here? So I actually believe, Cognito, I actually believe that might be the big plus. I hadn't thought about that, but them working with Bethesda, it seems like they had Bethesda, by the way, talking during their E3 or during their Microsoft Bethesda announcement. It was actually Bethesda doing a lot of talking.
Yeah.
So imagine if they're like, what do you think would work for us?
Yes.
Not only to sell your stuff, but our stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
I'm with you.
Absolutely. And so we actually shift back to the Xbox side of things now, moving on from Bethesda Game Studios to Compulsion Games, one of those acquisitions that Xbox made a while ago. They brought out We Happy Few. Since then, we saw a couple pieces of DLC that sort of wrapped up in 2019. So it's been about a year and a half, 2 years that they've been on this this new project, probably in full production. I would assume it's been pre-production for a while. Do we see what Compulsion Games is working on next, and to what extent?
Yes.
Ooh, bold. Let me hear you first. Ooh, spicy.
The reason why I'm bold is because Maddie hit one nail on the head, which is time, and I firmly believe Microsoft did not buy them whatsoever for We Happy Few. They bought them for an idea they had.
Oh, absolutely. I agree.
And I would say if he's right on the timing, That's a long time. The DLC team is not the full team either.
Right.
So it seems like it is absolutely a proper time to say, here's what they're working on.
Look, I'm hoping because we've had compulsion on ILP, and we were
nice. Oh, have you?
Yeah, we were fortunate.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, we were fortunate to have the community manager as well state that that they are working on what I consider one of my highly requested types of games on Xbox, which is that third person over the shoulder narrative cinematic type experience. And you know, I was told that it was that to extent, not to what the detail, but over the third person, to that extent. They did debut that. So it is time to talk about it. The question is, I don't know if it's ready. I don't want to get my hopes up too hard. You can't get my hopes up.
I know, right,
so
man? I think they're a sleeper.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep my expectations lower and say it's probably not going to be there. But if it's there, man, because one thing I did hear, and Phil has actually commented on this publicly after the fact, is that he said people are sleeping on compulsion, and he said they've got something that they were excited other than We Happy Few that was reason for the acquisition. So
that's why that's why I sit in the no category.
I'm there.
I feel like if you think they're sleeping, then you hit them hard, right? You don't show like here's a cinematic trailer, right? Like you show it when the gameplay's ready,
right?
And that may be next year, right. Just based off when they started. I agree with Carrick on one front though, is that with the time frame, it could be time for them just to say like, hey, let's show them what we're working on.
Just because it definitely wasn't the full team, right? I mean, doing the DLC, obviously.
No,
so maybe
absolutely not.
You know.
Absolutely not. And they've 100% expanded since Microsoft acquired them. So it is definitely a good time for them to show it. And I just feel like it feels like people are sleeping on us. Like compulsion's going to sneak up on a lot of people. You want that to be the biggest stealth attack of all time, right? You want to like just capture people. Me and Carrick have talked about like this BioShock style game from them because we have a few clearly took some inspiration from that. And with BioShock being really dormant, we know it's coming back. But with BioShock being dormant for so long, if Xbox is like, we got this exclusive BioShock-inspired title, dude, that's going to fucking move units, man. That's going to move units.
And I think that game was this close to being special.
I agree,
Yeah, not like this close, but it was that close. There were some things about that was like, oh my god, we were so close. Yeah. And the DLC even, I don't know if you guys did the DLC, but there was actually a pretty cool story. There were some cool stories with the girl I think that was in the original DLC with some stuff that may have happened with her that I thought was pretty risky for a game to do. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No,
Cognito,
you and Attic are like brothers. So
does he? He know what I'm talking about on this?
He co-signs it. He tells me all the time. He's like, bro, I'm telling you. He's like forcing me to play. He was like the concepts and the ideas. He just felt the execution from making it perfect when it was all off, but the potential was there. So he's literally saying what you're saying to me verbatim.
Yeah, it'd be exciting to see.
That's awesome. Next up, we got Double Fine, a little more of an obvious one. They're working on Psychonauts 2 right now. Previously, Brutal Legend, Psychonauts 1, some other stuff. I think this one's a slam dunk. We know it's going to be there. It's supposed to be releasing pretty soon. They're ramping up their coverage for it. I'm predicting personally, just to keep it nice and simple, release date, gameplay trailer. And it's going to be one of their summer launches alongside another game we'll talk about soon. But, those are my quick predictions for Psychonauts 2.
Same. Same. I mean, once the Xbox version of Psychonauts 1 was available for download, it's the perfect marketing rollout. I'm like, we know what you're doing. What you got?
I don't really have anything to add to that. No, I mean, obviously, too. And I don't know about, unless you've told me and I don't remember, but I don't know about any other game, at least from Double Fine, I don't think. That Psychonauts 2 should have been out like 15 years ago. So like,
I was gonna say,
it's time. It's time.
Yeah.
Shit, get off the pot.
Something. It's time. Even if they got something, right? It's just like, hold that announcement. Get this out first.
Yep, I agree.
All right, moving on to id Software from Bethesda. They made Doom Eternal. Doom Eternal launched last year. We've gotten some DLC since then. I personally don't think this is going to be an appearance at all. I haven't tracked the DLC for Doom that closely, though. I don't know if there's more on the way or not, but maybe you gentlemen can enlighten me.
Seems to conclude a lot of things. So, yeah. I mean, I didn't want to cut you back if you weren't finished, but
no.
Yeah, I mean, I think my gut says no because I feel it's still too soon. I hope I'm wrong. I love that team. Those Doom games are amazing. And It would be cool, but I just think it may be too soon. What do you got, Karen? Exclusive. Here it comes. Let's go.
No. So first, there's two things. First, we got to remember that id owned Orion, the streaming stuff, and they were talking about that, and that went away a while prior to the purchase. I would like to see if that's being integrated into Xbox Cloud. Just here's some tech, because I'm a big tech fan, and I don't think that just goes away. Like that, you know, behind the scenes, they're going to say, is it better than what we got? If it's not, can we use it? If it is, what can we do with it? There's various things there. I will say it was weird when Maddie said id, and I forgot that all these companies were all owned by Microsoft. Which is
it creates
weird.
A pretty scary perspective.
It
when
is.
You,
that is odd when you were like Bethesda id blah 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 blah, and my brain went, wait, that's an E3 by itself, and I was like, fuck, that's one company.
Yep.
Yes.
Like that's. I just. That's the first time that's actually hit me, where I'm just like, holy Jesus! Like that's a, you know, timing might not be perfect, but oh, Christ on a crutch. That's so many developers under of amazing games like Doom, dude. You know, Necromundia or whatever. I always fuck that name up. I knew I was going to fuck it up. The moment I said it, I was like, God damn it. But anyway, that game came out as a little like Doom, and that's why I think a lot of people, you know, sort of looked at it and were like, hey, I sort of dig this. I think another Doom will be great when that comes out. I'm really excited to see what they do, but I agree with you guys. I think it's way too early to see, you know, whatever we may see, a big AAA game from them. I just think it's
I agree.
Too far away.
Yep, big time.
In Exiles next, they brought us Bard's Tale, Wasteland. They're working on a new IP. It's a first-person shooting. Oh, yeah, sorry. Battle of Steeltown DLC will be out by the time everyone's listening.
Get on that. Yep. Me and Attic on it.
You got this new IP, first-person shooter RPG, AAA level, and it's on Unreal Engine 5. Clearly, that means we're not going to be seeing any gameplay, I'd say. But I think they do it, man. I think they pull the trigger. I think they announce it. I think they say, yep, we're doing this game. This is what's next after Wasteland 3. I feel like it's been long enough since Wasteland 3's announcement, or I'm sorry, release, where they can say, like, all right, it's had its time to breathe. Show them the next thing that's coming from In Exile. I think conceptually, at least, it's time. I would be very thrilled, though. So there's a little bias there.
Nah, I'm with you, bro. I'm biased with you because this was one of my sleepers right here. In Exile, like RPGs, man. Like one thing, you know, like Carrick, you said it best. It's like it's not until Maddie listed this, right? Yeah. And you start to realize the scope of what's underneath the umbrella here. And In Exile is another one, and I'm like, man, they are so underrated. And now to see them with a budget and a nice scope and like the possibilities now are exciting. You know, I'm hoping, man. I think I'm in the maybe. I'm not gonna say no. I think they're definitely time to talk about stuff, but you know, I don't want to get my heart broken because I'm really excited for them. I'm dying to know what they're cooking up. And yo, Maddie, if they do that, man, I'm with you, bro. I'm popping bottles. I'm excited. If you're a fan of RPGs the way we are, like these are Dream Studios come true, like just underneath one banner and working together collaboratively. And I love that kind of stuff. So yeah, more power to it if it happens, man, for sure.
What camp are you in, Carrick? Yay or nay? Or eh?
I don't know. I'm just thinking they bought the Bard's Tale. So Bard's Tale, as a huge Bard's Tale fan, since the first one on Apple IIe.
Woo! Talk that 2E talk!
Yeah. There's a green screen, by the way.
Screen,
you didn't have color screens.
Let's go. OG
green and
talk.
Black. Yeah.
I have no idea what you're talking
His young self don't know what we talking about.
Dude, this is prior to color monitors. When you played the game, it was green and black. That was it. You had green and black.
That Apple IIe talk with the disc.
Dude, Apple II. So, but they bought that, or, you know, maybe it was him originally. I probably was, but they've got IPs that they're interested. I was thinking with movies not doing as well right now, while you guys were talking, I was like, is there a movie, you know, IP that they might grab that could, like, shock people or whatever? There's a lot of RPG IPs. I don't know where they would be right now, though, because they were so small. They were so small prior to getting bought, and they were even saying that the money Microsoft helped them do which means Microsoft had to help them get voices in, which to me indicates they just didn't have enough money even or people to say, we don't need to hire another developer, let's do voices. They literally just didn't have any, because he's always known to run a pretty small, pretty mobile group. So I don't think so. I mean, if they did show something, it would be like, it would be an IP. I don't think they would show something that was not an IP. What I mean is they wouldn't go Avowed or whatever if it wasn't connected to something. They'd have to connect it to a bigger IP so people went, oh my God, they're working on that IP.
Gotcha.
Otherwise, I don't think they'll show anything, just because I don't even know how big they are right now. They were small when they got bought, man. Yeah. They were small, because we had him on the podcast twice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and he was, because I think it was after and before Bard's Tale, and dude, wasn't it like in the 20s or 30s? I mean, it got small for a while. His team was minuscule.
Have we heard anything about them ramping up since the acquisition?
Just in people, yeah. Okay. They definitely stated that they've hired a bunch. Okay. But that was pretty much it. Yeah.
We know they have more money to play with, because they said Wasteland 3, I always go back to this, would not have been fully voiced if they didn't have Microsoft. So there's also that.
Absolutely. Which is such a huge boon to that game, because it is an isometric, which doesn't grasp you sometimes graphically. But I think having those voices of every it just really helps.
Yeah, really big time. And being turn-based and co-op, and those are like two of my favorite things together, with great writing. And I'm like,
yeah, that game was good.
Very underrated, man. Addict definitely got me. I got to shout him out, man. He forced me. He's like, you got to, give it a shot. And we got a chance to interview them live as well. But I mean, actually at PAX. But yeah, I'm pulling for them. I hope so, Maddie.
Yeah,
Maddie, I'm with you. I'm pulling for them.
All right, let's go. Machine Games. This one's a little bit of an anomaly, I think. They did Wolfenstein. Last Wolfenstein entry we saw was Young Blood. That was collaboratively made alongside Arcane. But really, the last Machine Games release we saw was with New Colossus, and that was 2017. They're also doing a new Indiana Jones game, which was announced this year. Executive producer Todd Howard. So it's this interesting collaboration where usually you don't see Todd coming over to like a completely other studio, especially Machine Games, a Swedish studio. A little bit interesting there, but it seems he's sort of handling the story and working with Lucasfilm. Do we see a Wolfenstein 3 here? Do we see Indiana Jones? I really go back and forth on Machine Games a lot. Like, I'm very in the middle on them, because I feel like if Youngblood's not there, I sit here and go, it's time. Let's see Wolfenstein 3. But with Youngblood, with Indiana Jones, like, maybe they just, like, why would you pull the trigger on Indiana Jones if you had something maybe ready to show later? So I don't know where I really sit on this. I guess I'm technically in the middle, but what about you guys? Are you more definitive than myself on one end or the other?
Kind of with you, man. It's a tough one, because like you said, development cycle wise, you say, okay, it's time, but then you saw Youngblood, you're like, no. But then part of me was like,
that's putting the light.
I'm like the only one who liked Youngblood.
Shout out to all 5 of y'all. I'll mess with you.
Maybe less. Maybe less.
It just wasn't for me. But look, more power. A bunch of people enjoyed it. But for me, it's just like, I felt the Indiana Jones announcement would have hit harder if it probably would have been at like an E3. So the fact that they put this ahead of time, to me, it almost gives a cushion to say, you know what, we kind of gave you this. Chill out. We're working. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I mean, I'm in the middle. I can see it go either way, but I guess, I'm going to be definitive about it. I'm going to say probably no for now. That's where I'm leaning now. But Carrick, where you at, man? Help break the tie.
Yeah, no. If he's working with Lucas, they're filming 5 or 6 or 77, whichever Indiana Jones movies out now. I'm pretty sure Harrison Ford's gonna die on the actual floor while he's filming it, because the dude is like 8,000 years old. It's like a mummy. So, and I love him, by the way, but that dude's ancient. He's creaking now. So I think they would probably wait. If he's working with them on the story, I think it makes more sense to, even if they're not connected, to ride the wave of popularity about Indiana Jones and the last Crusade, whatever they call it. So I would say no, not for Indiana Jones at least. Right. And I just don't know if they're big enough to have other stuff. So probably not.
All right. Mojang Studios, Minecraft. Of course, we know that, but Minecraft Dungeons was also a game from them. I don't have much to say on this one. I like, this is a rare time where I'll go, I don't really care if you show
Oh,
up
okay,
or not.
I mean, I wouldn't be that. I wouldn't be mean. I was just like, okay, but salute.
Carrick, do you care a little bit more than us?
If Dungeons had been better, I would have, because Dungeons' idea is awesome.
Yeah,
but it was easy. It wasn't really enticing. So I would say right now, I do play Minecraft. I do want to say that. Fucking, I love some Minecraft if I'm like just chilling out on a weekend. So you know, but I'm not into it.
Right.
Like going to the Minecraft-a-con or whatever the fuck it's called. So, yeah, whatever they do, they do. Dude, they've got one.
Why you gotta say it with that voice?
Well, because that's the face I would have if I was there. I'd be like, why are we all here? What the fuck, man? But the game's been out for like, what, 77 years? Like, you know, it's just, and it just continues to make billions. It's the GTA of square block games.
Yeah, this
thing
is killing it. Yeah,
yeah, dude. You know, people were freaking at that Microsoft paid that much, and I'm like, dude, they probably made that much back from it in like a week.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I was
just
say.
Stupid. It's on everything.
Yeah, everything.
Even PlayStation gave in. Even PlayStation was like, oh fuck it, okay. We'll play ball this one.
We'll play with this.
Because I bought it on Vita, bought it on 360, PC. It's like, damn, they have the triple dip. That's like Skyrim levels, man.
Yeah,
and there's three
Skyrim
versions just on PC, I think. There's like the normal version, the Windows version. There's, you know, it's a thing all by itself. They have their own con,
No doubt.
which I think at that point you just have to say whatever they do, you know, is what they do.
This next one I'm fiery about. Ninja Theory. Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice really put them on the map. DMC Devil May Cry, we know him for that. I freaking love that game. And then next up, Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2. It has been reported by pretty trustworthy sources that we're not going to see Hellblade at E3, but my brain is just taking the logical route, maybe even just denying reality itself and going, come on, it's time. You revealed your console with this game. How are you not showing this yet? Like, am I missing something here? Like, why would you, like, I remember when I first saw this at, I think it was 2019 Game Awards, I went, oh, this is clearly going to be a launch title for this game, for this console. Maybe that sounds a little crazy now, but at the moment, I'm like, why else would you announce it alongside the system? They did it, and it's just gone radio silent since then. I've heard Ninja Theory talk more about Project Mara and all this other stuff they're working on than Hellblade, and I get that they're saving it for the reveal, but I feel like it's time, and I want to know if I need a reality check here. So I'm gonna lean into you guys a little bit. Cog, you look like you got something to say.
I do, but I gotta be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta be careful. Here's the thing. I'm with you, Maddie. Like, this is the one we want. Like, this is what we want to know what's going on. We saw Senua out there with the face and the tribal and the Celtic joint. It was looking crazy. Oh my God, what a way to debut a console, by the way, at the game. I thought that was fantastic. Man, I'm going to say no. And the only reason why I'm going to say no is after that, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, they had another event, and I believe they had one of the devs come on, and they were like, hey, we're in Iceland, or we're in such and such, and we're in this locale. And it wasn't really nothing much else about the game. And then, obviously, we heard about Project Mara, which sounds awesome as well. You know, if they do, my gut says that. You know, when you see the voice actress who's actually doing Senua, you see her actually ramping up on Twitter. You see her doing the what you call it. But I get the vibe that they may be farther along than even way we have hoped. So I'm going to say no. Sadly, I'm going to say no. I hope I'm wrong. Please clip this. I hope I'm wrong, because I want to be excited. I want that game bad. I think.
Please expose me, he says.
Yeah, please expose me, clip me, and say this. See, Cognito don't know what the hell he's talking about. But the reason why I really want it, and Carrick could appreciate this, is because as he is, I call him the Lord of Sound reviews. That game was transformative with sound. There was no game like that. I remember playing that game and being in utter amazement with the voices and the way Psychosis is being displayed. And I'm like, this is genius. So I'm pulling for that team. Hopefully I'm wrong and we get surprised and we get what we want. But Carrick, what you got, man? What you thinking?
No, I don't. Yeah, and I don't know, where they even are. But I would rather have them wait and get off the graphics discussion, which a lot of people got onto. Because people are like, oh, is this real time? Is this blah, blah, blah? And it's like, oh, God, here we go.
Here we go.
Which is because it looked like CGI, so then you get that it is CGI. It's not representative. I don't care about the CGI. I don't even... Hellblade, guys, it was a little janky. I loved it. Thought it was one of the greatest games, audio-wise and stuff. But there was, when you did battle, it was a little lean and all that stuff. I would rather have them just be able to do their own thing without the stress of having to prove weird shit to an internet group that is never gonna, ever give you an inch anyway. So probably not. And I'm totally okay with that because I think that game is doing something that's different. And not just from the psychosis, but the audio, all that. I would rather just wait, and whenever it happens, it happens, and I'm fine.
I'm with you, brother. Just take your time. Take your time. Now, you're sitting on some, also the puzzles and stuff like that. I can't wait to see what they do with a budget.
Yeah, that game was just... That game was just, it was the vampire of its time, Vampire, where, you get those B titles where you're like, holy shit, this is good. And that's the way, when I left that game, I was like, God damn. Yeah. Even there were issues, but it was like, it doesn't,
you saw the foundation. You saw the foundation for greatness. And like you said, with the graphics, right? Punching above its weight at that time. So
at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you, brother. I'm with you.
Yeah. The next one, I heard a really interesting comment that resonated with me. Obsidian Entertainment, who, I wish I had the name, I apologize, but it was just someone wrote in saying that they have the possibility to really be Xbox's Insomniac with the amount of projects they've got and the quality that I think they can hit. So, we're working on Avowed, we know that. It's a possibility of another Outer Worlds game. Grounded, we know what's going on. They have openly said they have secret projects. Josh Sawyer, sorry, sometimes I roll his name together, is working on one. Carrie Patel, director of Peril on Gorgons, working on her own. There are 5 projects in total at Obsidian right now, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was another one. So, what do we see from them? Because I feel like they got too much in the works right now where... You can't say no, right? There's just too many options everywhere, at minimum grounded. But, I feel like what's going to happen is you're going to see Avowed. I need to lay out the land, right? I feel like Avowed is that AAA Skyrim-like Obsidian, or Obsidian's take on Skyrim, pretty much. Kind of fantasy RPG open world. I feel like Josh Sawyer's project is going to keep that heart of the CRPG roots that Obsidian was built off of. I feel like he's just going to keep hitting away at that. The Tyrannies, the Pillars of Eternity. I think that is the heartbeat of Obsidian, and I think it's smart if they keep him doing that because he is so integral to that. Grounded is this experiment. It's working out fantastically. Just to keep doing what you're doing. Small team, build it slow. If it ramps up, becomes super popular with what I think they'll do is a full release. Kind of say hey, it's ready to go. This is the date. Outer Worlds, we just learned through Private Division, hey, we're not publishing this anymore. It's all Microsoft. On Microsoft, make it clear there's more from this series as well, if you are doing that. Because my buddy Juicehead made a really good point, which was that Boyarsky and Tim Kaine, we don't really know what they're directing. They've directed, of course, Outer Worlds 1. We don't know because they didn't work on the DLC. So they could have hopped right into the sequel after the first one launched while Megan Starks and Carrie Patel worked on the DLC for the Outer Worlds. So I just wanted to lay that all out there because I think they're probably, to me, of course I'm biased. I love Obsidian. I love their games. It's no secret. Speak your truth.
No, speak your truth, brother.
But I was going to say,
with you.
I think they are genuinely the most interesting company to talk about right now because they do have, I love that comment, they do have that scary Insomniac potential where it's they're doing this and this and this because what happened was, funny enough, now the brother... Bethesda Game Studios, we saw them try to do their own building game and they're doing RPGs and you see them sort of, Outer Worlds is the stronger RPG. You see them do Grounded and it does a lot of what Fallout 76 did, but with a much smaller team without sacrificing a lot. And even in early access, it wasn't in this rigid, broken state. So I feel like they're ramping up and it only will continue to get better from here, but I'm very excited about them as per usual. But this time in particular, I love what they're doing. So I want to pass it off to you guys because there's so many games here. What do we see from Obsidian, if anything at all?
Maddie.
Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, you want me to jump in? Oh, okay. Yeah, Maddie, you set that up beautifully, brother. You set that up. I am with you. I am Team Obsidian. The moment they were acquired, I had a bet internally. God bless the dead. My brother Dizzy was from LordsOfGaming.net. We would always battle. Who's the best? Which one of the draft picks? Which one of the free agent signings is the best? And I said Obsidian by far. And just hearing everything he said, obviously we saw Avowed. We saw what they've done with Outer Worlds. Grounded. This out of nowhere success. We've seen it on PC and stuff like that. They're definitely going to be there. They're definitely going to be. The question is what, right? We know, I'm with you. I think Grounded, we probably may get like a full release now. Maybe, here's the date. Here's what we're targeting. So I think Grounded is definitely one of the sure bets, right? So to speak. The question now becomes Avowed. We just saw it, not that long ago, just, conceptually what it is, that Skyrim kind of thing, which, man, gets me pumped. I'm in the middle. I think that could go either way, right? Outer Worlds. And wait, now that you're talking, you're getting me more excited because obviously, we had the devs on and they finished up. And shout out to Carrick for putting me on. Murder on Eridanos, man.
Yeah, Murder is good.
That is just, and shout out to both of y'all because we're all here Team Hub World, right? We're all team.
Oh yeah.
I am Team Hub World. You can flesh out stories. It may be time. It may very well be time to throw a 2 on that. So let me shoot for the stars on this one, man. Let's get hype. Let's get crazy. I say yeah, baby. Even if it's a JPEG, we're working on it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm good. I'm good with that. I think.
Hell yeah.
I think they may be ready. They've done, and like you said, the relationship with Private Division is done. It's Microsoft now, all the way through, moving forward. So I think we get that. That's where I'm gonna shoot my shot with that one. I don't know about that secret project yet. I'm going to hold off on that one, but I'm definitely going to shoot my shot with Outer Worlds. What do you say,
All right.
Did Outer Worlds get a boost?
They got
FPS boost?
Yes.
60 frames. Yes, they went to 60. Yes. And they are auto HDR.
Yeah, I do get occasional DMs where people are talking about Outer Worlds 2. It seems like it's pretty early. Seems pretty early.
Okay.
Yeah. What?
I thought he was like itching his ear, and I see him just leaning in like this.
Totally. Wait, you gotta say, I gotta do my.
He knows why, because we were talking in another DM, but so yeah, I mean, and that's not the first one. There has been some people who've stated that they had heard rumors of whatever. I mean, that'd be great. It does feel a little soon to get Outer Worlds 2 stuff, but if those directors were not working on it, that'd be awesome. What I also think would be awesome is, again, something more playful, which is if they can't show it, then maybe at the end, Obsidian says, these are all the studios and the games we've worked on. You got like the because you said JPEG, and I was like, imagine all these things, Outer Worlds up there, and then right before it cuts, somebody scribbles out and puts 2, to make everybody go, wait, what? If you can't show anything. And that's the thing that I think we're all, I just realized in the last part of the discussion, I think we are all stuck in, is it going to show CGI or is it going to show gameplay versus are they just going to say we are doing something? And I know people get mad about Avowed in particular. They got mad about Elder Scrolls, I think, where it just showed maybe the back, whatever. And Microsoft's known for that. But I wouldn't have an issue if Obsidian was like, hey, it's early, but we're teasing it with a JPEG. That would be funny to me, and it would take it as a playful. And people get as mad as they want to be like, dude, at least they told you. Outer Worlds is goofy. I'd kill for a sequel. I do think that Outer Worlds is awesome. I do follow Sawyer on Twitter and pretty closely watch what he's doing, and he is always talking about Dungeons and Dragons and systems behind the scenes and what he likes in various D&D, which does make me think that's beyond just his own personal hobby right now, because he some of the stuff he says, he talks about D&D games, but there's some stuff that he talks about, I'm working on this system, working on this. I'm like, okay, maybe we're getting a Tyranny 2 or something, which I'd kill for, because I thought Tyranny was awesome too.
That's one I slept on, man.
I also did hear, this is not happening, by the way. This is how rumors get started, so I want to make sure I'll say it. But somebody ran with this, and I believed it for at least a week. They said the game that Obsidian pimped to Microsoft, that Microsoft passed on, that turned into Tyranny, which because Tyranny was a completely different thing and was being sold to Microsoft. Microsoft said no, and it went to something else and became Tyranny. I had been told they had reversed, and that now that they're back together, that original idea had then popped back up because I don't remember his name, Farquaad or whatever his name is.
Yep,
Urgus Farquaad.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm pretty close. Good.
Close.
I didn't want to mispronounce his name because it's a really
it's a very
difficult to pronounce
for
name,
me
at least.
No, I'm with you.
I think he liked it. I think, in fact, he was one of the ones saying that was really disappointing. We dropped it, and so I believed it. But I want to make sure everybody knows. That person already said, "Oh, that was wrong," but that would be awesome. It would be awesome to have them do some stuff we don't expect. I think Avowed, worst name in video game history. They need to change it to something that is memorable. Nah, it's horrible.
Every week, he can't help himself. Every week,
get your man.
I am at their door knocking on it, going, dude, here is a thesaurus. Here is a thesaurus. Name it anything. But Avowed, it's so soft and it doesn't grab me. I want something. But anyway, they are probably one of the best. And I would say I like their games the most. I do not agree with Maddie on something, though. Whoa. He said, they're Insomniac. Here's why I get what you're saying, but I also want to make sure it's very clear. Those guys do not know what QA is. And they need to. They need to find a bug crashing unit.
Outer Worlds did pretty well with that, but
dude, Outer Worlds had a bug where if somebody was on a ladder, you couldn't kill them after that if you entered.
Yeah, but that was
discussion.
That was one very specific
there
bug.
were many other bugs that existed in that game. And
I thought
one
it was pretty
game
good for
after
Obsidian,
50 means nothing. So I'll take 50 versus 1. That one game,
I'm going to be spiteful, though.
Yeah, get him.
I went on Thesaurus. So Carrick wants either professed, accepted, acknowledged, admitted, affirmed, or avowedly. These are the alternatives on thesaurus.com to avowed.
Do dictionary.com. Do anything.com. Look, ask the internet, because the internet would come up with a better name than avowed. Jesus. That name is terrifying. Sorry. It's terrible.
I love his disgust for it. It's just funny to me.
It is. No, you're right. It's disdain, disgust. It's absolute horror. When they announced it, I remember going what? What? That is so bad. But anyway, they're great. Man. I think their bugging stuff needs to get fixed. I want to see it fixed. Hub World, that's the shit. Murder.
Facts.
I hope you had them on your Cognito. You had them. What's her name?
Megan. We have Megan.
Megan.
Yeah.
You had Megan and someone else. Both of those, I hope they're all working together because what I saw on Murder.
Oh, some of the best writing. Some of the best. Oh, right. Amazing.
And there is something there that I really want to see Outer Worlds get that.
Yes.
Because I do think that Fallout's so far away.
Dude, put Megan in charge, man. That's all I'm saying.
She's a beast.
I don't want to say that because I don't know who else is in charge and pretend they're bad. Right. I just mean Murder's good.
She directed it, so I know she was putting those pieces together, man. She did a great job for her. She was like, it's my first time directing this.
I'm like, first? Yeah, I was like, you're amazing. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, dude, some of that game did a lot of stuff right for DLC. I'm not saying it's Shivering Isles. That's ridiculous. That's like an expansion, but
it was refreshing.
Yeah,
it was refreshing. It was and it was, dude. I can't say enough. Especially, but when you come off the other DLC.
Yeah, I mean, Peril was okay, but like you said, this thing was just like this whodunit. It was just vibrant. It was cool.
You have your own little base, even though nobody did anything. But you were there. It was so different. Man.
Absolutely,
so different.
Great palate cleanse.
Yeah. So Obsidian, I think they'll be there in some capacity. We'll see what. I'm gonna say. I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna say Outer Worlds 2 confirmed. Just not even concept trailer or anything. Just be like, we're doing it. I don't think we get an updated look on Avowed, and I think we get a good look at Grounded.
Okay.
What's Grounded? You guys keep talking about it, but all I know of Grounded is the ant game.
Yeah, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Remember?
Yeah.
You don't remember?
That Fallout 76.
They love it. Yeah.
It's a great game.
Oh, is it popular?
It's huge, bro. It's huge, Obies. Oh, yeah.
Is it? Oh, it was so boring.
Huge.
It was so okay. Well, I'll have to go back. I played it when it first came out.
Yeah, no, I get it. It definitely. It was like as far as streaming, and then as far as when they made it available on PC. Like, people were gravitating towards it. I was shocked. Trust me, I was mad when they announced it. I was like, who's this for? I was like, grumpy old gamer. I was like, who's this? And I'm looking at the numbers. I was like, yo, I was wrong.
Oh, hey, that's good. That's good. I was the same way with Sea of Thieves when it first came out.
Same thing.
I was like, this is not, there's not a lot going on here. And obviously, now there is. So that's great. That's great.
Got a couple more left here. Playground games next. Forza Horizon's what they're best known for. We've heard rumors of that. And then Fable. Fable is the big, I think probably the biggest question mark. I really genuinely believe that. You think we'll see it?
I'm putting my foot down. We will fucking 100% see Fable. And if we don't, I will somehow show up mid-conference. And make them show
that character steps
game.
on into the background and they're
what
like,
if you see me go like this? Hey, Maddie, hang on. And then I just show up next to Phil. I'm like, Phil, we talked about this. I sent you emails like that kid who applied for the job. I've been sending you emails. I'm going to put my foot down and say it's time. We need to,
I have now realized, shout out to Lord Addict, you are the same person. Because he said, yo, you are that. He raged. I was literally with this boy at the 2019 E3 Microsoft conference. We're sitting in the theater. He's like, Cog, if they don't announce Fable, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to lose it. I'm like, calm down, brother. It's a chance. It's a chance. They didn't announce it. He went absolutely crazy. And that's how much passion he has for it. So, yeah, I'm with you. I'm hoping that. I hope they do announce it. So, my answer is, Forza definitely. I mean, at this point, we've seen the Mexican rumor, where it's going to be. So I'm hoping for Fable. I'm hoping for Carrick and Addict's sake. I hope.
Real quick, you guys, do you guys think Fable is not? Or I'm sorry. Do you guys think Forza, sort of like Assassin's Creed, is not going to Japan because they feel that's their when we're in trouble location?
Good question.
Because Assassin's Creed multiple times, that's been the rumor, and I don't know if that's true. But people are like, they'll hold that until they need it. Like that's going to be the big one. And I mean, don't you guys? I mean, I don't know. It feels like Forza's ready.
I think the rumor was Mexico,
Tokyo Drift,
right?
The rumor is Mexico. I'm saying, do you guys think the reason why they're not going to where? Right. It seems like everybody didn't say Mexico.
Right.
What I mean is, if I said, "Hey, Forza," who would have been like, Mexico? That sounds like a perfect place to go. So
you may be onto something. The only reason why I say that is because I know Mexico, from a marketing standpoint, Xbox does really well there. So
true. No, that's absolutely true.
I think they had the XO. They had the XO there.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I think it's. We all know Tokyo's the slam dunk. Tokyo's slow. The neon, the lights. It's meant to be there. So it could be one of those things, where they just hold. That's that trump card. They're holding on to it for a later thing, and then doing the other regions. Because think about the other before that was it UK, right? The other regions where they're trying to build up strength and gain more of a presence there. So I'm actually with you on that theory.
Yeah, I think for Fable, we see this. I think Forza, I don't really have my ear to the ground on Forza at all. Same thing with Turn 10. We'll talk about them later. But I don't really pay close attention to what's happening with that series. I kind of thought people were just like, oh, another racing open world game. I didn't think it was in the nitty gritty of something like Assassin's Creed, which is very historically driven, where you go into a new setting, and of course Japan's the obvious one. So sometimes you see these creators with these obvious ideas, and it forces them to think beyond that, because they're like, well, this is the sure shot, but what else is out there? I think we're all guilty of that at one point or another, just as creative individuals. So I don't blame them for thinking on that level and experimenting and then going, well, if this doesn't work, we can do Japan, which will get people back into Forza Horizon, because they'll be that they did it. I think Fable's not the sure shot, because I'm very conflicted on it, but I think it's time. It's been rumored for way too long.
High probability 3-pointer.
Yeah, exactly. I'm taking one from the 3-point line. It's a buzzer beater, and I'm either going to win or lose here. So I'm going to say it's happening. I'm putting up the shot.
Shoot your shot, baby. That's what I'm talking about.
Same position as who was I talking about? Ninja Theory. Rare falls into that camp for me of what the hell is going on. Yeah. So of course we know Sea of Thieves. It's doing its thing. It's growing. They're doing seasons now. It's doing fine. No problem there. Everwild has been shown on multiple occasions.
Yeah.
Much like how I felt about Ninja Theory, I'm like, it's fucking time. I'm getting tired of this. I'm not even curious from an excited standpoint. It's just let me know what this game is. Because you see these dancing, well choreographed trailers. It's
the seance.
It's like, ooh, the animals, the spirits. And I'm like, dude, all right, we get it. I just want to know what I'm playing at this point, man. I'm so out of patience with this one. I think it's there. I'm going against the grain. I think it's happening. I want them to show what is Everwild in-game. They've shown these beautiful trailers, but show me in-game what is Everwild.
Yeah. Sea of Thieves, yeah. I'm pretty, listen, you know, like Eric said, I'm not a Sea of Thieves guy, but I will admit, you know, I was completely wrong about that game. Huge following. I think, you know, they're gonna keep ramping up. Every year people ask me what I don't want to see, and I say Sea of Thieves, and it's there. so it's gonna be there.
This might be the year.
Yeah, it's gonna be there. It's doing so well for them. Everwild, I hope so, but I'm gonna say no. I just, yeah, I'm sorry, Maddie. I don't know.
0 for 2 on the big guesses here.
I could be wrong too, man. You know,
no, it's okay.
You know, I don't know conceptually what it is, and I'm waiting to hear what it is. I hope it is, but I don't know. I get the feel. When did we last see it? Also, it was when they debuted it at the last conference. Was it they debuted it? The last showcase? Was that yeah. I don't know. My gut. I'm gonna say no. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm gonna say no. What do you got, Carrick, for Rare?
I don't care, really. I think I would like to see them do Viva Pinata, because it's my favorite game they've ever done. But I don't think they're able to do those anymore. I think Microsoft sees Sea of Thieves, and they see it. And at some point, you got to make sure that your employees can go home and feed their kids, and you're in a weird world where you're maybe like, maybe we won't risk it right now. Maybe we'll get this sort of Scrooge McDuck kind of money behind us for a while, and then maybe do something. I don't even know the one you guys are talking about. I know the name, but I don't even remember. This is how much, like, it was
I wish I could describe it to you, but I don't know what the fuck it is, man.
Yeah. Like Avowed.
It looked
I'm
like...
just joking. It's not like Avowed.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I have to circle back around to that.
Move on. Just ignore him. Just ignore him. And I move on.
Yeah, it is disrespectful. But with Rare, I will say they lack an identity now. They lacked an identity for a long time. And Sea of Thieves is Sea of Thieves, but I don't say Rare is Sea of Thieves, weirdly enough. I'm like, it's Sea of Thieves made by Rare. It's like they're secondary. Yeah. I would like to see them do their own... They have a bunch of IPs, you know, if they want to go and revisit that. I would like to see them do that. And there was one other thing I was going to say about Rare, which was... shoot, I can't remember. I just don't... I mean... They've got a lot of cash behind them, and I'm just wondering if they're a little bit like a YouTuber with a long embargo, and they just keep putting off really sitting down and crunching it. You know, I did the same thing. I'll have an embargo for 10 days. Guess what? 4 of those days, I'm like, let's watch Fringe for the 44th time. And it happens a lot. I mean, I have to like religiously be like, dude, you know, you got to get that done. Because I like to be in the crunch.
Procrastination, man.
They're not in the crunch, you know? They're not. And I sort of wish they were.
Yeah.
Maybe split off a small team and say, this is your budget. We ain't giving you more. You know, or at least right now, we want to see an idea from you guys that branches us out of Sea of Thieves. Would be nice.
Right on. This one's interesting. Roundhouse Studios, formerly Human Head. They were acquired in 2019 by Bethesda, but when they were Human Head, they were working on Prey 2. This was in 2011. Right. Game got canceled. Looked amazing in my opinion, but it got canceled. Human Head and Bethesda have a falling out. Now they get back together in 2019. I have this little blurb here where it says, in 2019, Bethesda Softworks opened a new development studio, Roundhouse Studios. The developers at Roundhouse represent more than 2 decades working together on a variety of games and genres, including RPGs, shooters, action, adventure games, and more. So when it comes to Roundhouse, I don't think it's time for them to announce anything, right? This is way too soon. They actually, funny enough, were working on... oh my God, what is the name of it? I made a whole video about it because behind it was a lawsuit that was occurring because Bethesda was being accused of taking assets from the game that they were working on, this kind of medieval Viking style game, and using it for their own development for Elder Scrolls. And it was this really strange thing where people were like, is this going to hold up the deal between Xbox and Bethesda?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it never did, fortunately. But it did look like Bethesda sort of created this hollow company, renamed Roundhouse, just because it would get them legally out of trouble. Yeah, they would let them sidestep any accusations. It's like, well, it's not Human Head or whatever they were anymore. It's Roundhouse now, so we don't know what you're talking about. Like, they could legally say that, and it was just this really interesting situation where you could sort of see what Bethesda was doing. I don't know if they actually did take these assets from this game, but Roundhouse it's not kind of like Alpha Dog, where Alpha Dog is more like a support studio mobile. This is a team that's going to make a game, it looks like.
Okay. I'm going to tell you right now what's going to happen.
All right.
Let's get it.
You ready?
Let's get it.
Prey 3 is announced.
Oh.
And it is that Prey 2 game.
I would fucking love that.
And Microsoft comes out and they, I mean, I would assume there's a lot of fixing of relationships going on, because like you said, there's all kinds of issues with that. Dude, imagine how big of a deal that would be if they showed the same trailer and it was the game. Imagine they showed the same trailer and they were like, and people are like, wait, what? They're going to make it? And then they are like, maybe you see it fade out and it shows the real graphics, which of course would be better now than back then. And suddenly you're like, yeah, Xbox exclusive Prey 3. I'm just going there. That's my one fan moment. I'm saying that's what's going to happen. I am a big believer that Microsoft is going to have these companies overlapping way more than people expect.
I think it makes too much sense. I think it makes too much sense.
It does, and we've seen it before, like you told me. One of the monsters was created for Doom or something, right?
By Tango. Yep.
By Tango. Completely different company.
Oh, wow. So. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I don't have too much info on Roundhouse, so you know, I'm in the middle there. But you know, I'm with Carrick Stream. That sounds fire. That would be amazing. Awesome. Like I'm with all that. So yeah, let's do it.
All right, Tango Gameworks falls in the same camp as Arcane to some extent, except there aren't rumors of Tango doing some type of new IP like Arcane, where you can sort of find that caveat. Here we got The Evil Within. We haven't seen The Evil Within since, I want to say 2018, with The Evil Within 2. Ghostwire Tokyo. Spotty development, it looks like. It was revealed. I always talk about how Akumi Nakamura takes stage. She becomes the star in the games industry. People love her.
Weird.
Leaves her position as creative director, even though Shinji Mikami introduced her on stage like, this is my protege. Like, she is going to follow up in my footsteps and pioneer the next, like, genre of survival horror. All I'm saying is what I saw with Ghostwire Tokyo did not look like survival horror at all when they finally did reveal it. But I think the game changed drastically internally and Akumi walked away. And so they're in a pretty awkward spot where I don't think they're working on something separately. That's just my own speculation, but I'm going to go with a no for Tango. I don't think they show up at all.
Yeah, I'm with you, bro. I was there in stage for that moment when he announced it.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
were you?
Yeah, the building, it blew off the building, bro. It was crazy. And the initial concept is completely different to me. I mean, it's completely, but it just looks like you said, Maddie, it looks like it's taking a shift, right? And then we know, yeah, I didn't say no. I think they're fine. Now, I'm really excited for them as a studio, you know, just for Microsoft from a standpoint, you know, Japanese studio, that kind of thing. So,
yeah,
you know, yeah. I'm always excited for that, but I think we're still a bit away for them.
Agreed. What about you, Carrick?
I would just say I want the singular dev on the stage shit to go away, because this makes that dev team who is making the game, oh, guess what? They're making the game, but it's not with this person anymore. What does that mean? Blah, blah, blah. And the same thing happened. I said it when I was talking about Ken Levine, whatever. It became, it's like his game. And you're like, it's not. Or whoever made Death Stranding. It's like, it's his game. No, it's not. It's their idea for sure. Right. But there's a bunch of people working on it. And this front-loaded one-person thing blows up sometimes, and it blew up here. Yeah. And in fact, because from what I've heard, people think Tango looks good. It's just not what they thought it was going to be. Right. And that's sort of rude.
No, you're
it's
right.
like, oh, well, I guess you were able to pull some shit out, even though that person left. And you're like, God.
No,
right? You know, it's like it's like the second husband.
Yeah,
and you're always like, did she love him more than me? So
you're right.
I don't know. I would like them to get away from that and put the team. I'm more into the team stuff, especially now. Like I don't think they'll show anything new, but when they do, I can't wait because I think it'll just be Tango as a group, and there'll be less clutter around the title and what happened. And all that stuff.
Yeah, good point. And I'm actually guilty of that myself. It's total.
I'm guilty of it too, but you gotta pull it back.
Yeah, pull it back.
Who have you been that way with?
So many. You know, I've so many people. Studios.
Peter Molyneux. Admit it.
Oh yeah, don't get me started on him. Don't get Mr. Project Natal and Milo.
Milo.
Man, don't get me started. We'll go off on a tangent. For
we can do an entire podcast on Milo.
We can do a podcast just on Peter Molyneux alone. That was actually a good one. That was a good one.
This next one we can breeze right by to kind of keep a pace here. Coalition, they already said they're not going to be announcing anything soon, but they do Gears of War. So we already know they're not doing anything. 5. Just want to make sure we did diligence there and had a mention. So we move on to the Initiative, founded in 2016. This built from the ground up studio for Xbox. Now we know they're working on Perfect Dark. That was revealed in the end of 2020 with the Game Awards. It was a cinematic trailer. And that's all we've got. Do they make an appearance at E3 to sort of show off what Perfect Dark is when you're founded that long ago? Do you think it's far enough to be like, hey, here's some gameplay? I don't think so. If when the first time they showed it, they were like, it's just a couple minute concept trailer. But I feel like you guys have the more convincing argument. For me, it's about timing, and like this doesn't seem like right timing based off what they showed their first time out. If there was more that could have been ready to show in a couple of months, half a year, why didn't you just wait till then and blow it down with a gameplay showcase? That's my reasoning.
Yeah. Quadruple A. I like when they said that.
I forgot about that.
I just had to say that.
I
just had to say it.
That's the worst, most painful thing to ever hear anybody say.
That's why I had to bring it up. Yeah, Maddie, I'm with you. I don't think so, man. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but I just felt like we just got the announcement, right? That what it is and that what they're working on. So, you know, it would be great. It would be great. I hope I'm wrong, but it just feels still too soon, maybe before they can get into the nitty gritty of more gameplay. So that's where I'm leaning.
Yeah, and
I would attack on character.
I would agree. I would just say that with them having Bethesda and all these other companies, I think some people can have some breathing room.
Yes.
People will still say, what are they doing? But you can be like, we showed what we showed at this event, and at some point, you're just sort of, you know, masturbating stuff up there. You're just like, it's just random shit that might not be representative of all at all of what we're going to show. I'd rather have them be like, you know what? They'll show it when they're ready. We've showed, as long as they show some good stuff. I think a lot of these companies that people are questioning can sort of just have that breath and be like, let's just get through this year. And COVID affected, like I had said a couple months ago, the word I had got was that it had, and we're only now starting the last like month or two to hear this, but dude, I was hearing this like 6 to 8 months ago, and people were like, dude, it's destroying the work. Yeah, it's just destroyed all of our plans, and I'm okay with giving them another year and just being like,
to double down on your point, I had to have conversations with fanboys time and time again, as if their favorite company is absolved from pandemic and they have no problem putting out games. This is everybody. I'm hearing studios.
It's
everybody, man. Development has really been halted, and people have had to adjust because of it. So this is affecting the entire industry, guys. So. Yeah, I agree with you.
I'm surprised we're having an E3 in this format. Actually.
Absolutely.
To be brutally honest,
too. Me too.
I'm sort of surprised.
Yeah.
That's why you're seeing these late announcements. Like, we're just hearing Nintendo showing up on the last day.
I know,
like,
dude.
We don't know what's in those middle days between Xbox and Nintendo. It's like, dude, what's happening?
What's happening?
So,
think about how late
I don't think they know.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Just to Maddie's point, like, traditionally, we would know about E3 like mid-April, early. Like, we know the date. And it was getting to the 11th hour. I'm like, when is this showcase going to happen? So it goes to show you this is still fluid. Things are still happening. But go. Sorry to interrupt you, character. You were saying.
Nope, that was it. Yeah. I think that this event is. I'm going to be happy almost with whatever we get, because I get it that some people, even CGI groups that I talked to, Maddie had him on the channel, a guy who does CGI trailers for companies, and even they were like, it slowed them down. And they're remote.
Remote.
People, they were already remote, and they're like, you don't understand. If I need something, that's slower. It has nothing to, I could be working at home all my life, but the people out there weren't, and so they are slower to get things. And they have people at their house now, dogs, like people are working from home trying to do all this stuff, and now you're at home with other stuff. It's just destroyed everything, man. It's ridiculous. So I'm okay with whatever happens.
Absolutely.
Here. Turn 10. Last release, Forza Motorsport 7, 2017. I had to, I double-checked this, so unless I'm missing something, let me know. But, like, I was like, damn, it's been a while for them. And when you got Horizon, which is pretty strongly rumored to come out this year, where does Motorsport fall? I know there are people who are like, I like my hardcore racing sim. Like, there's a difference there. I know that. But is it going to create a... I want both of your opinions on this, because I'm genuinely just not knowledgeable enough to talk on it. But, like, does it create a weird position if Microsoft says, here's Forza Horizon, here's Forza Motorsport in the same showcase? Because I can't see that really happening, because people, I think, will just ask, well, what's the difference? Once again, this could be my ignorance showing. I know there's a difference in gameplay, but how do you show that in a driving game? Whoever would like to go first, because for me, I would just say, like, I don't think that they're going to be there. But I also feel like timing would lend them to be there. But if Horizon's the stronger rumor that we've heard time in, time out, why would you show both at the same time? So whoever wants to
go ahead, Lord. I'm going to look something up real quick.
Yeah, I think I'm with you, Manny. I think it's one of those things, where when you look at the development cycle, you would say, yes, it's time for them, so to speak, right? It's time for them to tell us something. But the reality is, I just think the way Microsoft has positioned the situation, where it's almost like, Forza Horizon is the quote-unquote casual, more, I want to say broader appeal, because I don't know what the sales numbers of Motorsports are offhand, how it does, but and whereas Motorsport is that hardcore racing enthusiast sim, like that is the racer's game kind of thing. So to me, once we're hearing the rumor of Horizon, it lends itself to be later out. And then I personally look at I'm a Horizon guy, but I personally look at Motorsport as the graphical showcase of the system, right? Yeah. So I look at it as something that they may want to push that, as far as getting under the Series X, maybe that Series X only, not cross-generational title. So that's where I'm kind of leaning with this whole thing. And I think Horizon also, I think it just has a little bit more broader appeal right now, because, again, if you get a casual guy who's not really into racing anymore, like me, to play this thing, and you put a cool locale around it, we were already talking about, possibly, obviously Mexico this time, but maybe, Tokyo, you'll get me. Listen, the greatest thing Horizon ever did was make a rewind button for garbage guys like me who crash into the side of the fence. So I'm pressing rewind, and so they appeal to me on so many levels for that. So I'm gonna say no, only because, not that I think they may have stuff to show, maybe, but only because I think it would steal the thunder from Horizon if Horizon intends to, for what every rumor we hear is supposed to be Mexico and it's supposed to be this year. So that's where I'm leaning.
Carrick, what were you looking up?
I'm just looking up sales. The first week sales of Forza 7 were not very good. Where Horizon, because it is a casual game, Horizon is casual, but you can also set the difficulty up.
Yes.
So that's the difference between like a niche racing title and a casual one, is you can usually make the casual one harder. Right. Where a lot of times you get these racetrack games, a person's like, why would I want to do a figure 8 race when I can race through snow and through water and still have the difficulty a little higher? It didn't sell great. I did remember seeing this, so I wanted to look up and verify. The producer, main guy, did say that their idea is to reinvent Forza Motorsport. So my assumption is the only way to do that would be to separate it even more so. they were already technically profound. They were digitalizing tracks. They were doing all kinds of crazy shit in the first Forza, let alone later. I would assume what you will see is an HDR / graphical showcase in the new Forza whenever that does come out, like ray tracing, for sure.
I agree.
If we don't have ray tracing, by the way, in a lot of games here coming up, I'd be surprised because even the Xbox S is doing ray tracing at 30 FPS on like Watch Dogs.
Yes.
And Microsoft has looked into, you know, AMD's new sharpening stuff. There's all kinds of crazy tech stuff going on in the background. So I would say that will be how they separate it. And GT Gran Turismo, you know, that's coming. That's really the only hardcore racing one on consoles where PC's got a ton. So I don't think Microsoft will stop or anything. But I do think that they might do, we want it to look, you know, because you're not doing an open world.
Right.
So you can crank the graphics. Yeah.
Facts.
And I don't think they did on, in fact, I remember people were posting GT versus Forza 7 tracks, and there were some questionable decisions on Forza. And so I could see them saying, we reiterated too often. Let's hold off and let's just fucking Xbox only, maybe. Xbox X only. You know, like it could be a series only game too, which have Horizon be all of them, maybe. And then and then
that fits the bill
Motorsport.
too.
It fits it.
Yeah.
All right, we got 4 left, boys. Then we'll move into the news real quick.
Like an ILP episode.
Undead Labs, we got State of Decay from them. They announced State of Decay 3 last year in a cinematic trailer. Looks like finally Undead Labs is getting themselves a budget. They just released the Juggernaut edition a couple of years ago. I love Undead Labs, man. I think State of Decay, for all of its, you know, it's rough around the edges nature. I think
all the jank.
Yeah, all that jank, man. The shadows,
best
jankiest game. Tall. We all brothers here. Good. I love it.
Dude, at 3 a.m., 4 friends just like, don't you speed fucking look through that drawer. And I have a friend who's got no attention span, and you'll hear. And oh, dude, it's so good. Sorry, Maddie. I had to interrupt. It was just that. It's so many good memories in that game. So many. What were you saying, Maddie? I apologize.
I was just saying exactly where you guys were bringing it to, which is that State of Decay is fantastic, and to see them finally seemingly get in a budget. Think it can, because for me, like, it's not even the gameplay that needs really any major tuning. It's just that, like, I remember, dude, I'm not a major tech guy, but I remember reviewing that game and seeing the fucking shadows, and it literally looked like someone took a paintbrush and went like that and just whipped black paint on the ground. And it's like, that's your shadow right there. That's you. It's like, what the fuck is that? And so I'm excited to see them, you know, do something,
step it up
with the something a little more competent visually while keeping the spirit of the gameplay. And I think doing a little less procedural generation. I love the dynamic nature of State of Decay. I hope we see more of it this year. I think because of the release of the Juggernaut edition, I know that's not a full team effort, but I think they probably need another year in the tank before they can really show this. We know it's coming. You know, it's been sort of set. Here's what to expect. And just kind of go from there. But this is such a great success story, right? It comes out as an Xbox Live Arcade title. Yep. I remember that this game just took me away, man. It absorbed me for a while.
Its FPS was lower than if you added both of the numbers up for the platform it launched at. 360, 9 FPS. It dropped lower than 9. I played it. Its FPS was dog shit. It was MPS. It was fucking so bad. And dude, it didn't matter. It didn't matter.
Fun.
I would go around a corner and almost want to vomit because the FPS was so bad. And then like something would happen and somebody would be like, these 2 survivors had a fight and somebody ran off. And I'm like, I got him, man. It made you a hero, but it also told you that heroes die because your guy could die.
That
and you'd be
permadeath
like,
was real.
Oh, dude, it was so good.
Yeah, so good.
It's so good. People just don't get it. It's like, dude, if you like, I know Days Gone came and people saw the graphics, you know, and they see State of Decay and they're like, damn, son.
I was gonna say, give me that Days Gone look and feel.
If it looked as good as Days Gone, on the PS4 even.
No wonder Sony's not gonna make a sequel. It's overboard started, man.
Wow. Yeah. Look, you guys are preaching. Again, I didn't know we all State of Decay brothers here. That's awesome. Man. I love it. I gotta plug a little bit. That was our first ever developer interview was them, and I'm pulling for
was
them.
Undead.
Yeah.
They're so cool.
They're so cool. Shout out to Strain at the time, Richard Fogey, who we had on ILP, and just to hear it, I remember talking. I'm like, look, I love you guys, but the jank. And then when they came on, it was right at the acquisition. And I was so proud of them. I'm like, you guys, the announcement happened the same week. We were like, oh, you're blown away. So look, shout out to them. State of Decay with a budget. Wow, that would be impressive. I can't wait. We've got the, what is it, the Silicon graphic kind of CGI thing last time. You know, I'm going to still say no. I'm still going to say no. I still think we're probably like a year away. We're getting there. We're like a year away. Yeah. And then we'll get what's going on. But I am so excited because the last thing I'll say is just that even with 2, which was a slight improvement, right? But the reality is, I love the 4-player co-op, but my issue, Carrick, was that it was in this small radius. So it was like, hey, don't go down two more blocks of the tether, right?
Yeah, the tethering.
So I remember we had the dev on. We're like, yo, what was up with that? And at the time, we're just like, look, memory constraints, Xbox One. Yeah. So them, budget, more power. Again, could you imagine with a better fidelity, better engine? I'm pumped, man. I'm pumped. But one more year. One more year.
And 1 year would allow them to like shine by themselves, because this year's pretty crazy with Bethesda being bought and all that stuff.
That's true. Yeah, give them
you know
the
what I mean?
spotlight.
Yeah, absolutely.
But dude,
it's a really good point.
I mean, I rarely get like giddy.
Yeah,
and I would say, I mean, rarely. Like, but there's something about State of Decay that we did Absy and myself and Sleeve played. They're all people in the Discord, and we did a stream, and it was just like, it was so dumb and fun, and shit wasn't working sometimes. Like getting together, by the way, in that game, that was its own board game. You almost had to have rules for figuring out how to join. It was, but once you got in and you had that, you heard that friend who's like, oh my god, and you know, they see a zombie or whatever, and you're like, where are you? And the game didn't always give you a ton of data. It would just be a dot, and you had to figure out where they were, and you'd unlock, or you'd start getting the guys running out and just leaping through the windows.
Great.
Everything about it was so dynamic and so personable, maybe because of the jank. Good. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, I would love them to go another year, though. Make the graphics good, allow them to deliver something that looks this gen.
Absolutely.
Yep. World's Edge is up next, known for Age of Empires. We already know Age of Empires 4 is coming. I think we're going to just get more details on that. Kind of the Psychonauts situation. I think this one's pretty much like a guarantee. I think what's happening is Xbox is kind of setting up a fall with Age of Empires, Forza Horizon 5, Halo, and letting Halo kind of be the big dog there, where I know Carrick said earlier with Starfield, depending on how confident they feel with their fall, will they overextend? And so it depends if they're confident in something like this. Alongside some third-party deals, which we'll talk about next. But anything you boys want to throw in on World's Edge?
I have a question real quick. Sure. Is World's Edge who did Gears Tactics?
Splash Damage. Those are my guys.
Okay, so Splash Damage.
Did we already combined with Coalition? It was like a joint.
It was Splash like Damage. Yeah, they're not owned by Microsoft.
No,
right?
they're owned by Tencent now.
Oh, Jesus Christ. So anyway, ignoring that for a second, have we heard anything about Gears Tactics 2? Because that's what I want.
I want that. Oh, have
we heard anything?
My guy right here.
Dude, that game,
soon, but we
that game is
amazing.
I mean, they can at least say it's coming. I don't know. I think Gears Tactics sold well, too. From what I understand, it reviewed incredibly well. I didn't know so. And I think it sold well. So I was just saying, I was hoping they announced it. Okay, but it wasn't those guys then, is what my question was.
I hope they get
I imagine
great prequel for the story as well. Yeah, amazing.
Xbox Game Studios Publishing is up next. These are the third-party deals that are struck. And then after this, we have ZeniMax Online, and then we're complete. All right, so Xbox Game Studios Publishing is probably going to be one of the major defining factors of this E3. I've heard some fucking really interesting stuff that I've reported before, so I want to just put it out there. This is new, but we've talked Lucasfilm Games, how Xbox has been cozying up with them. We've talked Avalanche before. Seems pretty apparent something's going on there.
For sure, by the way.
Yeah, Avalanche is pretty much like a lock. Yeah. I would be surprised if Avalanche was not here with their game with Xbox. What it is, though, I think will surprise a lot of people. And then lastly was Square Enix, which seemed to be kind of on the docket a little bit, because what was happening was IGN was reporting that more Square Enix games were coming to Game Pass, more exclusive dealings were coming, and then it ended up being true when we saw the likes of Octopath Traveler make its way over, And I think you're going to see Square Enix in some capacity there. I don't know if it'll be a full new game, but we're hearing their name be tossed around a lot. This is probably, like I said, just the most defining quality, I think, to the showcase, right? You know, we were talking about the burger, shake, and fries, right? Like, you know, like these companies are going to be there in some way. Some are going to get these intermittent updates. Some are going to get these big showcases. This is where you're going to have the, like, whoa, what is that? Who do you want to see Xbox team up with? Who do you expect? I know it's broad, but like we're talking Game Pass deals here as well. Like I've been putting it out there for a while. I'm like Scarlet Nexus Day One, man. No one is fucking talking about this game. It looks good. It got a demo. Still, no one's talking Scarlet Nexus. Put this on Game Pass. Bandai, get your money. Get your money before it's gone.
Get the bag, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is it. This is I feel a lot of Xbox fans coming in were kind of like, oh, I don't like that. We have to temper our expectations as far as the first party studios. But I felt the game studios, the publishing would be what would be the boon, what would be to kind of get them through for this year from a release standpoint. And that's, you have the Game Pass situation and all these things that you can buffer any type of, you know, delays, or you have Bethesda. I felt the Bethesda with the publishing deals would be enough to still create a big excitement for them. So yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think Square should be there in some capacity. The hope is Final Fantasy VII, but I don't want to get too crazy. But the hope, you know, we'll see what happens there, if whether or not the exclusivity was, you know, extended or not. I don't know as far as that is concerned for the remake, as far as Sony. But as far as them, selfishly, because I'm a Sega kid, so I would like to hear something, man. I would, you know, let's hear about, you know, Yakuza Like a Dragon in Game Pass. Let's hear something about Persona 5. Let's get it going, bro. Like, we know the relationship is good. We see the titles, you know, doing well as far as, you know, the past Yakuza stuff. So to me, it's going to happen. And Maddie, I did watch your video. I know you said that you probably figure it to be later, you know, and that could happen. But why not get everybody pumped up and throw a Persona on there, man?
One of those situations, right, where just like you said earlier, clip it. If I'm wrong about Persona, I'll be the first one out there in a video fucking screaming about it. Trust me, man.
You had the suit on. I was hype.
Yeah. I'll be out there screaming. If they're like, Persona's coming to Xbox, I'll be like, yes. Like, because I just want more people to play this series, really. It's not even like an Xbox win. It's like, dude, just get more people to see how good this is, man. It cannot be stranded on PlayStation any longer.
I'm with you, brother. So like I said, for me, it's Sega, Square, and I want to see if Ubisoft gets involved in somehow, some type of a, you know, announcement or something. That would be cool, you know, because we heard rumblings and stuff like that. So those are the three that I'm looking forward to. But I think this is the underrated aspect of the show that people are sleeping on. Microsoft has money to throw around, a lot of deals that they're going to see Game Pass. Like you said, the Octopath Traveler, you saw Outriders. These are going to be the games, these third-party type games that are going to be supplemented and almost feel like Xbox exclusive if they even throw the Game Pass aspect on them. But that's what I got.
Absolutely. Carrick, third party, man. What are you feeling? What are you thinking? We know you said there will Avalanche.
Yeah, but there will be some IPs that are bought by Microsoft, for sure. I've talked about them before. I'm not backing down on that rumor.
Say it,
for sure.
Say it with your chest.
So, well, no, I mean, I've talked about it. I think there will be some. I really, honestly, you know, it went from Microsoft. Then people were saying Sony and Metal Gear, but I'm gonna stick with there'll be something there that for Xbox only. And I don't what I'm hearing versus what could happen. I mean, I'm just gonna go with what I'm hearing, which is that there will be a game. In that series from like a mixed group, and that to me is really exciting. Then I heard it was Sony that was doing it, so it was like, which is possible that you get a difference there. But I think the most important one is, I would like Square Enix. I would love for them to come out and say, you know, Avengers was a lie. This is the real Avengers. Give us the actual Avengers game.
Please. I like that. I like that, though.
Well, I mean, it'd be awesome if they were like, April Fools, motherfuckers. That's not the real game.
This is the real shit.
That was just, it's dog shit. So
I'd be so happy to be pranked on that one.
But that's not going to happen. What I do think might happen, I don't know about the Final Fantasy thing. I just don't think that. I think Sony's
locked
tied
it down.
That up.
Yeah, probably.
Right,
Vintage
like they
Sony
tied
would
up.
lock
We
that
know they
down.
tied up VR
Yeah.
for Resident Evil 7, for instance. Like we know because Capcom even said we got another payment to make it exclusive still, and that game's been out. Well, we have a sequel, so I'm a big Sega fan as well, but I'm old style, like Thunderblade, Shinobi, fucking hang on, like old style.
Oh, yeah,
I would
we did.
love to see a return of Shinobi
Oh, God,
because
see?
Shinobi is a huge, and it was a PlayStation did one title.
Yeah.
Brother.
PlayStation also and Sega did a game, one of my favorite games of all time, which was supposedly going to be a Metal Gear killer called Headhunter. And Headhunter 1 and 2, they were original Dreamcast and then PS2, I believe. I would love to see that. I would like, if Sega's going to do stuff other than Virtua Fighter, which they just said this morning, there is no current work on 6, which is devastating to me. Because
I know
that's what I grew up on.
Facts.
Yeah. So Sega's got an IP list out there that I would like Microsoft, if they're not going to buy them, which
Tap into that shit, man.
Because dude, they have their IP list of old games that could compete with current. Like, so if you're talking about what's the other, what's the one with Ninja Dog mode, and it's the
Shadow Dancer?
Ninja Gaiden, Ninja Gaiden. But Shinobi, it was at one time just as well known.
Facts.
And Sega has about 6 or 7 of those titles that are like they could move them to now, be refreshing, but still offer the gameplay that a current game, for example, a Metal Gear offers, but it'd be like Headhunter, because Headhunter was basically Cyberpunk Metal Gear. I mean, that game was incredible, and it just didn't do well. And Sega was like, dude, you got to ride around on a motorbike, go into buildings. It was insane for its time. It was just probably too insane. It probably asked too much, because I remember the FPS being really bad. But there's that, and then Sega, you could talk forever. They've got zillion. Well, that's really old. They probably wouldn't do that.
This
But dude, oh really? Yeah, because dude, Sega's got titles that, like, when I was a kid, that was
my joint. I was writing down them zillion codes when you went down that
dude.
Brother.
No, listen, Bug Bomb. I know all the. I still know the designs, the glyphs. So my
Poor
friend
Maddie.
Roger and I would play.
He's like, this is an
and I'd be
OG
like,
podcast.
Roger. I'd be like,
I'm just looking up
Bug
Headhunter
Bomb,
so I can get back in line here.
Spear. Yeah, and Roger would go like Bug Bomb, Princess Spear, and we'd run and open those things and then run. Oh, dude, zillion. Shit.
What?
We need to do a Sega.
We need to do a
podcast,
Sega podcast,
dude.
brother.
Yeah, I was gonna say we need to bring Cog in permanently at this point, because at this rate, Carrick's he's got someone who gets him now.
I got goosebumps, bro.
Because that's the first time I've had like a Sega fan know what zillion was. Because like I feel like such an idiot.
Yeah, I'm like, no one knows what I'm talking about, and it's like
no one
you
knows
knew
what
exactly. I'm like, oh my god, I remember the music and everything.
So there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Sega and Microsoft. That's what I would. I would rather see that than Square. I think I would love to see Final Fantasy, but that seems worrisome to me.
Yeah.
It seems like that's tied up. Avalanche, I think, is a for sure. From what I've heard, that is a for sure. And I think when you look at what they've been doing, I know what you mean by surprise, Maddie, but I'm not saying you could figure out what they're doing. I'm just saying
there's enough out there, people talking.
Yeah, I think there's a good move on that part, and I think Avalanche is a surprisingly good mix with Microsoft. So there's some companies that, Insomniac, whatever, you look at Sony and you're like, it makes sense. It just makes sense. I agree. Yep. And then with Microsoft, there's others where I'm like, oh yeah, that's
what Sega's
that
been, man.
makes sense. And that's what Sega, and we've been waiting and not getting it. And that to me is, I think, the biggest question is why have we not got it? And Sega's doing a bunch of shit prior to E3, and my opinion is it's because we are going to get some, whether I'm right or wrong, it is weird that Sega suddenly started. Dude, I went to Reddit Games prior to coming here, and Sega's got like the top 4 or 5 threads. Yeah. So
Sonic, Virtua Fighter, yeah, man.
Well, there's Alex Kidd, even though I think Alex Kidd, there's been some Alex Kidd games. But yeah, they have some amazing IPs. Anybody who's listening, go look up Sega's IPs, man.
It's tremendous.
It's ridiculous.
Once you said Shinobi, I mean, that's literally my namesake. Lord Cognito is based off of Shinobi, the ninja. I have the arcade upright in my house, like literally.
Do you?
Yes.
That's awesome.
I'll show you pictures. I'll send you pictures.
Dude, I have the Shadow Dancer statue, which is the Shinobi, like, what was that, 3? Was that with the dog?
Yes.
Yeah, dude. I
love that,
dude. Yeah, when we saw Streets of Rage.
Streets of Rage.
So I think that does indicate that we might see some of these things, which is very cool. Streets of Rage was, when you were a kid, that was the jam.
Classic.
Yeah, that was the jam.
Last one, and then we'll just rip through the news. We might end up dropping our 5 questions at the end just so that we don't go on way too long here. we'll see where we're at. And I'll make that decision then. ZeniMax Online Studios, obviously best known for Elder Scrolls Online, Tamriel Unlimited, and their new chapters. They just released a new one for Oblivion, and it looks awesome. But they also have confirmed they're working on a new IP. Do we see their new stuff here at E3? I think not. I think we just see a little promo, maybe in a pre-show or something. We see a little promo for whatever just happened with Elder Scrolls Online. Kind of keep that in the mix. Don't overshadow it with this new game announcement. As much as I want to see them, whatever they're working on next, because it's actually a pretty good time to be an MMO fan. Like we're gonna be talking about Phantasy Star Online 2, New Genesis, right off the rip in our news. Like there's a lot of cool stuff happening. Final Fantasy 14's getting a big patch at the end of this year, or an expansion. Sorry, I think it's called Endwalker, and that looks really neat. Like there's a lot of good stuff happening in the MMO space. So I'm really curious to see what ZeniMax does next for their game. So boys, do you expect anything to occur within ZeniMax Online space with their new IP?
I'm with you, Maddie. I think I'm being conservative. I think at most probably online, if there's any possible new content update edition, that's something that it's continually want to continue to support. Again, we know probably working on something new. I don't know if it's time, but hey, if it happens, it happens. But I'm going to lean conservatively and say no for now.
Okay.
How big are they?
Pretty sizable. I want to say. I don't have a number, so I apologize.
Are they all doing the MMO?
That's a good question.
Because at some point you go, guys, it's made. We're just doing side stuff.
What else you working on?
Yeah. And is that a costly MMO? As in, do you pay for that? I've forgotten how
you pay. You don't have to pay a subscription fee. There's ESO Plus, so you can get bonus stuff. It's actually kind of laid out like Fallout 76.
Could that come to Game Pass? Could that come to
Game Pass? It is on
Game
Game Pass, yeah.
So if you're Game Pass, you're already you got the game.
Yeah, I think you just have to buy the expansions when they do drop.
Their LinkedIn currently says company size 51 to 200 employees. I thought they were bigger than that, but
if it's 51 to 200, I don't see anything this year.
Yeah, I don't.
Even at 200, that's
LinkedIn says view all 428 employees. Okay.
There you go.
Sorry, that was at the top tucked away.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. Yeah, at that point, maybe you do see stuff. Do you guys think they would ever pull? No, nothing. I don't even want to say it, because if I say it out loud, some jackass developer...
I threw it out there and said they're doing a Star Wars MMO. I was like,
no,
come on,
but what if they did an exclusive Elder Scrolls just for Xbox? And I was like, please don't. That would just cause...
No,
but can you imagine if Xbox was like, Morrowind is already out, but, they're like, Morrowind, for people would... It would be the end. It would... That'd be a disaster.
They already been through the Tomb Raider thing. They don't need...
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
let's not... Yeah. Oh, speaking of Tomb Raider, so Tomb Raider Shadow was 2 years ago, right? 2000.
That was 2018. That was 2018.
So do we think? I just wanted to bring that up because I had Trevor Duvall who was in that. He's a voice actor from F is for Family and some stuff, and he had done Shadow, and it reminded me we haven't seen a Tomb Raider, right? In a while.
It's been a minute.
Has there been any word on that at all?
I gotta take a page out of your book, brother. I don't care. I feel like Tomb Raider has not won me over. Like, I don't care.
You didn't even like Rise, dude? Seriously?
I liked Rise. I thought Rise was good, but
Shadow was a lesser sequel. I can
Shadow was
I
like
liked
such
it,
a...
but I see what...
I love Shadow's difficulty settings. Like, that's what stuck with me the most. Like puzzle difficulty, combat difficulty.
Agreed.
I liked Lara as a character most in that game. I know a lot of people had an issue with her, but I thought she was very flawed, and that made her interesting. It's such a hit and miss series.
Yeah.
The locations did not do what they did in Rise. Is that what you're saying? Because Rise's locations were
exactly that.
Geothermal Valley, baby. Like, that was next level when we saw that. Okay, dude, I gotcha.
Yeah, so I want to see more. I'm open to seeing more. I will play it just like I have with all of them. But if they don't, and they're just like, yep, we're out for a while, it's like, all right, sure.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Like, we can miss you.
Yeah.
Miss you at a distance. It's fine.
All right. Now we have news, gentlemen. This is just too busy of a week to pass on any of this stuff as I was putting together the doc. So what I want to do here is give us some tidbits for Xbox. There's been a lot of little things happening from Game Pass announcements to free games and stuff that I'm just throwing together in one jam-packed doc. And we can just pick apart what we want to talk about here, but most of these aren't like their own segment. So let's start with Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis, which is releasing June 9th. It's set 1,000 years after the events of Phantasy Star Online 2, where heroes of the Ark are prepared to defend a whole new world. It's free to play and available only on Xbox as well as PC with cross-platform play to boot. This relaunch boasts wide-open environments with no loading screens, enhanced character models / character creator, redesigned graphics engine, new multi-weapon system and abilities allowing for the combination of multiple weapons, and it connects between Phantasy Star Online 2 and New Genesis, so that means it's directly built into Star Online 2, which means you should just have a standard update if you're a current player. This is one I'm really excited about. I was looking at the New Genesis trailer. It looks great. I want to just wrap all of this up, and then we'll pick through it. Whatever you guys want to talk about. Dungeons & Dragons Dark Alliance is a Game Pass Day 1 game. It's getting couch co-op in its first patch after launch. On the official Twitter account for the game, they said, quote, after Dark Alliance launches, our main priority is supporting two-player split-screen couch co-op for Series X/S, PlayStation 5, and PC. We're working to have this ready for our first free DLC this summer, end quote. Sorry, I shouldn't have said patch. Next up, Tell Me Why is free from June 1st to June 30th to celebrate Pride Month. Don't Nod, the team behind Tell Me Why, states their reasoning for this is, of course, to get the game out there in players' hands, but to also encourage them to spend their money in places that directly impact trans and queer communities, citing that That Which Faith Demands by Jenna Yao, Spirit Swap by Soft Not Weak, I Can Fell by Happy Ray Games, and If Found by Dreamfeel are recommended by their team as places you can support devs who follow these types of things. Lastly, For Honor, coming to Game Pass June 3rd on cloud and console. Backbone, a raccoon detective game. Didn't realize this one was coming around so quickly. PC Game Pass June 8th. And Darkest Dungeon, June 10th, cloud, console, and PC. Curiously, in this same tweet announcing it, where they said, June's our favorite month because it rhymes with soon or something like that, social media manager for Battlefield responded saying, wait a minute. So fans are speculating yet again about Battlefield coming to Game Pass Day 1. It's been a rumor for a while. I don't know if it's just being willed into existence, but that's sort of what's happening right now in the Xbox world. Things have been quiet. You can tell by their Game Pass announcements. I don't remember the last time I saw them make a Game Pass announcement. It was only 4 games. It's clear they're holding things back for E3, so not a lot's happening on their front, but there are some exciting things here. Where is there anything that stuck out to any of you that you wanted to get into specifically?
Go ahead if you haven't.
Yeah, I mean, Phantasy Star Online 2, I haven't got a chance, still haven't got a chance to play it, but I know the community is super strong. You know, being a Sega kid of the original Phantasy Star 1 and 2, you know, and those games, those games were amazing to me. So to see it, obviously it metamorphosized into this, but it is a strong community, you know, so that's a good get. I always felt that announcement was huge. It was very underrated. It had a lot of diversity to the catalog. So that, Tell Me Why, just being out right now, I think that's a big deal. You know, a lot of people got to get a chance to play it. You know, shout out to, like I said, all those communities, because that is important. And I'm glad to see Xbox kind of get behind that. That is 100%, that's man. Awesome. You know what I mean? I love.
They do a good job of that.
Yeah, just inclusion, you know what I'm saying? Again, LGBTQ, that's awesome. So salute to them for that. I think they even have to merch and stuff, you know, incorporate. So that's cool. And then Dungeons and Dragons, I don't actually know too much about that. I was gonna ask you guys, like, I don't know too much about that one. That was actually interesting, but I'm interested in the couch co-op aspect for some reason, because it's rare that you get those that nowadays. So yeah, you know, this is cool, man. And as far as the Game Pass announcements, the last point I'll make is just this Battlefield thing, man. It looked like it got legs, bro. Like I mean, it's to the point now. I think when they announced it or something that the Xbox account with one of the developers from DICE, and he's making faces and comments, and I'm just like, it's starting to synergize way too much. So I think it's maybe one of the worst kept secrets if it happens. That's where I'm leaning.
I guess so. Yeah. I was one of those people, I didn't doubt it, but I was just like, I don't know where this is coming from, but just like I said, it feels like it's being willed into existence. Just people really want it, man. People really want it.
Yeah, just recently.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, one of the DICE devs and Xbox, and it was this back and forth and eyeball emojis, and I'm like, y'all playing it. It reminded me of MLB The Show right prior. If you remember, the MLB account, you know, those accounts were playing with each other in Xbox, and I'm like, yeah, something's happening.
Yeah, you're funny. You're right, because it's funny enough that they always start like playing nice with each other online to be like, yeah, we're pros.
Yep, exactly. Exactly.
Okay. Carrick, anything here in this grab bag of Xbox news that stood out to you in particular?
Yeah, Battlefield for sure is coming Game Pass. Woo! Like that's we'll just say that.
Eric's putting a lock on stuff this
I'm
episode.
Yeah,
just two things, but that one's for sure.
I'm with him.
I will say, I think Cognito said this. I was reading to make sure I was up on some data before I started talking, but I think he said the same thing that I'll say. So Final Fantasy. So I like the last one that came out, which would be not the Genesis, whatever the one that just they did a demo and there was all this stuff. I think it was about
Phantasy Star.
Yeah,
Sorry, you said Final Fantasy.
Yeah. Sorry, Phantasy Star.
No, you're good. You're good.
It was phenomenal gameplay. Looked like just dog shit, right? Like it doesn't matter. It's in some of the best gameplay, and I was talking about it in my Discord, just being like, this is just so fun, but it just is horrendous looking. And the new one, it does look better. If it plays anything like that, I'm gonna be super excited. Because it is a fucking blast. And I would still play it if it looked like dog shit. Because I did. I played like 16 hours of it. It was so fun.
Yeah.
It is not Phantasy Star, though.
Yeah.
And I want to put it out there to Sega, you're cowards. There needs to be a true Phantasy Star game. And Phantasy Star is one of the best. Phantasy Star is, dude, the first game had you going to other planets. Like that, they were like, Nintendo was like, hey, you can be Zelda and you can pick mushrooms. And they were like, fuck you, pick a planet.
Bro.
Sega had their balls out when they were younger. Classic. Like in the 93 era. So I would love to see a true Phantasy Star sequel. I would.
No disrespect though, because I did to Matt's point, I did hear this one, it's amazing. Like people, from an MMO standpoint, it's amazing. Yeah. But like me as a pure, like we're Sega purist, so that was one of my, angry old man moments where I'm just like, do we need to give us a damn sequel to part 4, because that's what I grew up with, that stuff. But shout out to
that's why I wanted to bring up the gameplay is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's really good. I'm willing to try it if you guys play it. Yeah, I'm willing to try it with you guys. That would be awesome.
It's a blast.
That would be great.
And then
it looks great.
It looks great.
It is. You'll like. I thought you had played the one that came out.
I played Phantasy Star Online 2 with a couple of buddies of mine. They all fucking rage quit. They hated it. I was like,
that's
this
what you
fun,
told me.
Man.
Yeah, you and I talked about.
Fun.
I remember. Yeah,
I
had
liked
a blast.
it. I liked it, but I was like, I'm not gonna play this by myself. So I showed my boys. I'm like, look, New Genesis is the wave, man. Like, check this out. It's gonna be better. I'm promising you that. Just trust me. And they're like, all right, this does look better because they didn't like how it was like in these like narrow valleys and stuff. It's much more open. Combat was already good. Like I'm fighting for this game, man. I don't think I've ever fought for a game more in my life. I was like, come on, just get on board with me. It's gonna be good. I'm telling you.
Be up bad. I'm gonna give it a shot, man.
Let's go. Let's go, man.
And
let's do it.
And that's about it from that stuff. That's about it. I just, I mean, it's really cool that we're getting, and yeah, Lord said it best, that it was an underrated, it doesn't matter. Microsoft could announce they're giving away babies to people who can't have them, and people would still bitch, and they'd be like, well, how much do they weigh? They might eat too much.
No, facts.
It's insane. It's like at some point you have to be like, all right, you guys gotta just be fucking with me at this point, right? Yeah. It was a good announcement. It's turned into a good series of games. This looks awesome. So I'm just really excited to play it. And he's right. The community around that is actually pretty it's like Fallout 76, where you hear a lot of stuff about a positive community, which is always good.
Yep. So just some cool stuff happening in Xbox. Next episode, we'll talk a lot more about this. And just keep in mind, we're working on timing for when that next episode will go live. Because obviously, for those who don't know, real quick, we record on Wednesdays. And when our episode goes live on a Sunday, that would go live the day Xbox's E3 showcases, which would kind of make that episode null. So we're going to reorganize the schedule and figure out when exactly we should record our next episode. So this may be it for a while. Maybe we do record a very long one. We'll see. Number 3 in our news. This is more general stuff, but couldn't help but notice what's going on with Far Cry 6. It received its official reveal last week. It's been a pretty bumpy ride for Ubisoft. From the craziness of a new pet system allowing you to fight alongside a wiener dog or a crocodile, to the explosions and first-person gunplay you'd expect in a Far Cry title, seemed all was going according to plan until one article from The Gamer caught traction, which stated that the game was, quote, not political, end quote. The interview shows that Ubisoft was aiming to pay homage to guerrilla fighting, but is not making any particular political statements on the status of Cuba or any locations for that matter. This led to confusion across the internet and in turn forced a written letter from narrative director Navid Kafari. It says, our story is political. A story about modern revolution must be. There are hard, relevant discussions in Far Cry 6 about conditions that led to the rise of fascism in a nation, the cost of imperialism, forced labor, the need for free and fair elections, LGBTQ plus rights, and more within the context of Yara, a fictional island in the Caribbean. My goal was to empower our team to be fearless in the story we were telling, and we worked incredibly hard to do this over the last 5 years. We also tried to be very careful about how we approached our inspirations, which include Cuba, but also our countries, or also other countries around the world that we have experienced political revolutions in their histories. In our approach, we made sure to seek creators and collaborators for our team who can speak personally to the history and cultures of the regions we were inspired by. We also brought on experts and consultants to examine the game story multiple times over the course of the project to make sure it was being told with sensitivity. It is not for me to decide if we succeeded, but I can say we absolutely tried. The conversations and research done on the perspectives of those who have fought in revolutions in the late 1950s, early 1960s, and beyond are absolutely reflected in our story and characters. But if anyone is seeking a simplified, binary political statement specifically on the current political climate in Cuba, they won't find it. I am from a family that has endured the consequences of revolution. I have debated revolution over the dinner table my entire life. I can only speak for myself, but it is a complex subject that should never be boiled down to one quote. What players will find is a story that's point of view attempts to capture the political complexity of a modern present-day revolution within a fictional context. We have attempted to tell a story with action, adventure, and heart, but that also isn't afraid to ask hard questions. Far Cry is a brand that in its DNA seeks to have mature, complex themes balanced with levity and humor. One doesn't exist without the other, and we have attempted to achieve this balance with care. My only hope is that we are willing to let the story speak for itself before forming hard opinions on its political reflections. Thank you for reading. Navid Kavari, narrative director at Far Cry 6. Now, Ubisoft has had a history of this. In 2019, they said the Division 2 is not making any political statements because the team believes the games didn't have anything to say. Curiously, Far Cry 5, I was reading, received some criticism for not being political enough and towing the line so delicately that they really never quite say anything. So this isn't the first time Ubisoft's found it in hot water, but they've played this back and forth game for years. We're not political. They want to have their cake and eat it too, right? They want to say we're not political. They want to be marketable because some people go, I don't want to deal with politics. I don't want politics in my game. But they confront these themes that inherently seem political, that, you know, if you're not having something to say, by the way, I'm not talking the polarizing left-right argument that is in the United States. I'm talking generally, like, if there's nothing for your game to say, then what are you doing as a creator of art? I feel like that's a genuine question that needs to be asked sometimes, because when I do my own personal writing, I mean, it is absolutely inspired by modern culture, just as many other projects have come before and will come after. There's things that happen in our world that you think of and you're like, how do I not drive this into my game world, but take that and create this thought, this process, this theme, this piece within the game world or within a story. So I have some general thoughts on it, and I'll kind of lay it at that. What do you fellas think of Ubisoft finally kind of pulling the Band-Aid off? Like, we've known this for a while. Their games are politically charged to some extent, which is fine in my opinion. But the kind of hiding away and pretending it's not, finally coming out and just being like, our game is political. Like, clearly the PR was saying, hey, make sure no one knows this is political. Like, it's not. Just make sure you don't say it is. Now we're seeing what's happening. What do you guys make of this?
Woohoo!
Good Lord.
I got it. Look, man, I mean, this was a good one on the docket. You know, I might be in the minority here, so I'm going to say my opinion as far as this. I always feel with gaming is art form to me, right? So I always believe in the developer or creator's right to expression, whatever it may be.
Yep.
Even if I disagree, you know, because, you know, at the end of the day, it's a game and we have the right to choose if we're going to support it or not. Now, to your question in reference to, you know, them towing the line and them touching on things and, you know, subjects that may be current and relevant, and then maybe not, you know, going in and on that. I understand that argument to an extent. But to me, I'm at this point now where it's like, I'm always going to be pro developer in the way that they should have the right to express themselves, right? And us as consumers have to say, hey, that ain't it, and I ain't supporting it, or you know what, you're dead right with that, and I'm on. So with this one, you know, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not a Far Cry guy, so I'm not really haven't played the series, so I'm really not in this position of expertise to comment on how they do their games because I really haven't played them. To be honest, I've never played a Far Cry game, but no, I've never. That's one of the ones that slipped through. So I have a different perspective here. But for me, you know, I'm always going to lean in the developers right now. To people who are going through that struggle or these relevant things and they have a sensitivity to it and they say, hey, man, you're not speaking on or you're not depicting it correctly, then I do believe in accuracy. You know, I do believe in, you know, telling it correctly. You know, if there's things, if you're going to go from a historical, you know, line for line, you know, 7 years ago kind of thing, then, yeah, you kind of need to be accurate unless you inherently say this is our version of it and not like a, you know, some people say that this is our interpretation of a specific time period, that kind of thing. But that's where I'm at. I'm very actually curious for both of you as far as how you guys feel in this specific subject with Far Cry, because a person I've never played any game in the series.
Carrick, let's hear what you guys say first, and then I'm sure I'll chime in eventually.
Well, they do start every one of their games with "this is fictional."
Okay.
They have a disclaimer. I would say that what's going on right now is you have a bunch of people making a game, and then you have somebody saying, hey, I want to know, even though you're Martha, I want to know why Bob made the game. Mm-hmm. Usually talking to the PR person and trying to figure out why the lead made the game a lot of times and trying to pick their brain apart. And so the PR person says, no, it's not political. But what they're really saying is,
I should clarify real quick, by the way, the interview was with this same creative narrative director. I don't know if that change anything.
Yeah, no, it doesn't change anything because this is the third time it's happened. Mm-hmm. So every time they do this, one of the things that they're doing is they're stating it doesn't believe or agree in a particular bad point. Okay. Like if there's a killer in the game who's killing children, you can be dumb and you can say, do you believe that he should be able to kill children? You can be an idiot if you want. And you want to ask that and you want to waste your time asking that, you can. But I think these guys saying it's not political, that was dumb. I also think sometimes we're sort of dumb to ask because you're just like, of course it is. Whether even the creator doesn't believe it is, it can be. For example, I can create something and not know it's political or not have political leanings, but when it comes out and people read it, it becomes political for whatever reason. That can also happen. Additionally, there's a thing about questioning somebody. And there's a very, very cool skit about questioning somebody and leaving them nowhere to go. And I'm going to change it slightly because it isn't current in how it's said. But a comedian once said, one of the worst questions you can get is, have you beat your dog lately? Now, there's no way to answer it correctly because they are already interpreting that you have, at the past, beat your dog. And are you still doing it? You can't say, well, I've never done it because they've already asked as if you have. And so there's this whole way of asking a question where you can make it sound like the person, regardless of their answer, is wrong or is in. And that's what we do in gaming. If somebody says it's not political, guess what? That's political. Because if you say it's not political, you have immediately de facto made it political in some way. I will challenge anybody who wants to say that it's not political because you're killing people, which is at some point going to come up in politics. If you are killing people as the main character, in some way it's political. Even if you're going to say it's not, Duke Nukem, at some point you have to look at it. And by the way, Duke Nukem was one of the first games that had, like, I don't know if you guys remember, but you'd run into Duke Nukem and they had O.J. Simpson on the TV screen in the bar, and you know, all this kind of crazy stuff. Sexism can happen, those kind of things. But I think it's a weird conversation. I think it's one of those type of situations where you can't win because, like you said, oh, Far Cry 5 wasn't political enough, and you're like, there you go. That shows where we are right now. Either somebody's bitching because you are too. That's the thing, is there isn't a dividing. There isn't a line. Right. There isn't a group of people who are like, this is the group and the only group that matters. Everybody can ask the question and you can't answer it right. So I think they should have just back then just been like, well, it's political as the actions that you take and that you see are in it. We're just not saying you're a good guy for killing people. I think smart people would have taken that already. Joseph is not a good guy. He's not in 5. He's not a good guy. Would you have ever thought he was a good guy? No. And if you do, you have other issues that are outside of the game even. That's more on, that's a psychological thing. So I don't know. I hate the discussion because I'm just like, this is. They shouldn't have said no. They shouldn't, and they probably. I mean, should they have been asked? I don't know. But I mean, you know me. I'm not going to ask.
Right.
Like, because I would have already gone. I go into every game thinking it's a game and that I might get something out of it.
I have a question. That's real quick.
Yeah,
pretty much as far as I go.
Every iteration of the series tends to have something like this where
every iteration of the series has involved something. The first one was on a paradise island taken over by an evil corporation that was, you know, and then 2 was Africa, which had you go in there and getting dysentery and all this shit. 3 was in the 3 or 4 was in the Himalayas with a terrorist organization. You know, against Overseer. 4 was sort of the same thing. 3 and 4 are this kind of thing.
3 was on the only one that
there was only 2 that didn't. There was Blood Dragon, which is in the future, but it was also about consumerism, which is another thing. It was not only consumerism; it actually was a 1980s rip. So you actually had Michael Behan from Terminator as the main guy, and it was a bunch of Terminator jokes. That was Blood Dragon, and then Primal is probably the only one that wasn't political because it was cavemen. I mean, well, political, I guess, if somebody steals too many fires from you.
The start of man, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it sucks. I get why people ask sometimes, but sometimes I'm just like, jeez. You know?
Yeah, you got to use your head and assume sometimes.
Yeah. Or told all your team, be like, just say yes, but we don't agree with any of the bad shit that happens. At that point, allow the creator to create.
Well, yeah,
like Cognito said, like allow him to create, and then you judge on that. But we are way past that now in society. Like I don't think we're at that point anymore.
Yeah, man.
Personally,
Maddie, I'm just curious because you've played most of the iterations.
I've played most since
all of
3. And I played all since 2.
3.
Right. You're feeling. I just gotta ask because I'm completely new to shit. Like, is it something that you feel they told line and they need to just get ahead of it, or like where are you at with that?
See, my perspective has changed a lot in this stuff because I've started to write more and more, like creative writing, where you start to realize, like, as you are making something, it's always going to come from
somewhere else,
a life event. Yeah, it's going to come from another game where you're like, I like what they did here. Like, how do I create this same type of situation? What do I put there? So as I look at Far Cry now, it's like, I'm not sitting here, by the way, I want to make it clear to the audience. Like, I don't sit here and be like, you've got to say something. Right. But when you present something kind of like Far Cry 5, doomsday theorists, cult leaders, you know, Midwest America, I think it was. Like, I think there's clearly showing that they're basing it off of something they've seen before and kind of creating this universe. And it's not that they have to say something, but it's like you've now set yourself up where it looks like there's the opportunity to say something. So what I find oftentimes with Far Cry is you get these very preachy antagonists that don't really say anything. It's very filler. They kind of drop into the background. Like in Far Cry 5, you just get abducted a bunch of times and you'll get monologues and then you're like, I don't know what you were even talking about, and they're gone. And you like wake up in a field. So for me, it's one of those things where they don't really try, and I find it frustrating because I would rather you try, and kind of like what they're saying here with 6, actually. Try. We don't know if right now it'll be good or not, if it'll nail what it's trying to represent or reflect, but try. Because then you're saying, you have the potential to say something meaningful rather than Far Cry 5, which I thought was a very bumpy road. It was kind of just ebbing and flowing. It was in existence. It was just kind of neutral. So yeah, I like I said, as I write more and more, I just feel like, you know, you just see these things happening around you, and you look at for me, I'm creating this whole universe. So I look at the politics I've written, the government I've written, the religions I've written and stuff. And it's like, you look at Christianity, you just Catholicism in general, you look at everything across the board, democratic philosophies and so on and so forth. And you're like, what is that in my world? How is it reflected? What are the changes there? What's ideal? Because then you start to tap into like technology. What has changed in my world technology wise that can maybe back up some of these bills that have been proposed in our world? And you sort of evolve those ideas more and more. So just, you know, I know I'm not some like big famous writer. I'm sure my thoughts don't take much merit for people, but just as someone who does a lot of creative writing on that front and universe building, it's like, yeah, you definitely, I can say firsthand, and I'm sure many in our audience can say firsthand, like, yeah, you look around and you just naturally see things. Otherwise, you're just throwing shit at the paper and just kind of evolving as it goes. And I've done that. You just sort of riff on paper, and it's like it eventually starts to come from somewhere. You start to tap into something. So, yeah, I'm glad that they're just kind of pulling the Band-Aid off and just saying they're doing it, man.
Fair enough.
On the topic of the game, we have one question from Giovanni D'Amico. Hey, Dukes. Looks like Ubisoft is committed to showing last-gen, i.e. PS4 and Xbox One gameplay of Far Cry 6 to prove the would-be buyers that these versions of the games will be competent rather than a bungled mess. On the game dev and publisher side, is this the legacy of Cyberpunk 2077? CD Projekt Red's botched launch and messaging were atrocious, and the Cyberpunk fiasco was completely avoidable with a bit more transparency and honesty. So I'm hoping that a lot of lessons will carry forward beyond just a few months. I get the argument that it's good business to appeal to the huger than ever player bases of last gen, but there's a right and wrong way to craft those down-resed and scaled-back experiences and a right and wrong way to show them off. Very well said, Giovanni. Do we see a little ripple effect here from Cyberpunk? I think so. Yeah. Just generally speaking, I think everyone is like, we don't want to be that next. I don't think they're studying what they did and changing it up, but I think they're being like, let's not have that happen to us, because that was I made a video. It's still hurting them, man. CD Projekt Red is still in a really bad spot from that.
No, absolutely.
That launch permanently damaged them.
Yeah, absolutely. Sullied a great reputation. And again, I was in that room. You know, I was fortunate for our small little site, LordsGaming.net, to get the opportunity to cover it before, and what I saw was the most amazing thing I've ever saw, at that time. And I was, singing the praises, of what it was. But again, this is where transparency and representation of what you're actually seeing is important, because that experience is not what the current generation of gamers got. And, they're paying for that. And they're paying as far as from the development standpoint. And now they're great reputation. So at the end of the day, I think it is a learning experience for the game industry to take advantage of it, and the way you present and be transparent. And also, if things aren't ready, delay. It's okay. I know the boardroom has a lot of say, and I get that, but look at what's happening now, and that's exactly right.
No shit. Yeah. That's what I say. Fuck you, boardroom people. That's what,
exactly.
You just got your ass handed to you because of your stupidity and your greed. And by the way, I don't agree with Giovanni here. I don't think transparency would have fixed it. The game wasn't fucking ready.
It wasn't.
That's just the way it was.
No, you're right.
I got to play all the versions. Not fucking ready. That's on them. And by the way, anybody, I get that people liked Witcher 3, but that was. By the way, 1 and 2 were not great games.
Right.
3 was. I don't know why anybody thought Cyberpunk would for sure have been this masterpiece. And that's why prior to it, I was like, why are you guys all assuming it's... I don't get it. And it blew up just like gamers do. They're so busy in the corner, furiously masturbating to their own dreams. And you're like, dude... It's going to fail on you. Step back. And they didn't step back. People bought it. Sony removed it from their stores. By the way, only... the shittiest game ever, Afro Samurai 2, has also been removed from stores. That's the only other game. So forever, I'm going to remember Cyberpunk and Afro Samurai 2 as the two games that Sony removed.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing.
It's embarrassing, and they lost way more.
Yeah.
Way more than they would have lost if they had made a proper game. And it's going to question mark everything they ever do. And by the way, yes, people listen, but I will tell you, it's a little less about what they show on trailers and more about their release dates.
No, absolutely.
Every developer I've talked to is like, we may show this, but our release date and when we're ready, that has for sure been impacted by... I mean, I think I said it in the first 3 weeks. I'd already got a DM from one dev who was like, dude, this will ripple for 5 years minimum. And everybody, no lie, and there were about 200 people in this company, and he was like, people were already, it came out, people were seeing reviews, and they were like, oh shit. And they were already like, let's think about the long term. And I think for a long while, people thought CD Projekt Red was going to get away with it, and they didn't, man.
No, absolutely.
They didn't,
I just want to, a lot of people, you're absolutely right. Carrick's absolutely right. I just want to, what I mean also is that they did delay the game a couple of times, we right? But the thing is,
3 or 4,
it doesn't matter. Like what I mean from transparent is, if it's still not ready, you still got to keep delaying whatever you got to do.
Oh yeah, I know.
You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, now you pay, like you said, the ultimate price, and they may not recover from it. But I'm sorry, Maddie, I just wanted to say that part. Does that agree?
No, I think I was just going to really repeat what you were just saying right there. You know, I think the damage is done. And as much as I personally came out saying like, hey, I really like this game. Like, I thought it was a really good time, especially more so on the gameplay front. I should
I'm
specify.
Scared to play
like,
it. I haven't booted it yet. I'm waiting for the
just
next
wait.
campaign.
At this point, just wait. You're not gaining anything by starting now. I tell people that. It's like, yeah, I like it. I don't back down from that. But like, it's not like I'm out here preaching like, go play it, go play it.
People
say,
like, the people that played it said what you said. They said they do love it. They still enjoy it. You know,
yeah, it's a game that I think people will love once it's working. And to exactly what Carrick said, yeah, it's like they should have just done that in the first place because they've lost infinitely more now.
I don't know about you. I feel sort of this way with Necromunda.
Necromunda.
It technically it's got issues, and those impact your gameplay experience. If your gameplay experience is not smooth, it's hard to say if the story's good. Right. It doesn't make any sense because you'll be like, dude, what if every third page in your fucking book was missing? Which is what it's like when shit crashes or when blah 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 or when this or that. And as you said, it was clumsy, and I was like, yeah, it's just not ready. Developers are getting instant feedback. That game has got. It's like I think it's 60% on Metacritic. I don't know what Cyberpunk is, but I think that over time these companies looking, it sucks. It sucks because I wanted a good Cyberpunk game. I'm the first one to tell you. Like I would have killed.
Aesthetic.
It's not, but in a weird way, I'm not saying I'm happy about it because that would be so.
No, I know
rude,
where you're going. No, but
I am in a weird way.
It's good for you.
It is a blessing in disguise for a lot of devs who go, you know, heart matters. And I don't know if that game had a bunch where Technomancer or these other games that get a better score, Vampire, where you're like, dude, this is punching above its weight.
Heart does matter,
right?
bro. Well said.
Yeah, so heart matters, and being like, we're trying, and that was the difference. Vampire had surprises where you're like, oh my God, I can do this. Cyberpunk had none. Instead, you couldn't do what you should have been able to do. That's the difference between passion of somebody saying, let's put one more thing in. Let's try one more thing. And whatever we got with Cyberpunk. And it sucks, but I think other devs are looking at it, and not everyone, but they're learning something from it. It's the most painful lesson probably, and I would say the most costly one ever in video games by a good amount. But it's sort of a needed one.
Absolutely. And it's why, you know, speaking of Heart, Biomutant, it's still doing pretty well, it seems, despite its pretty average reviews, and it's got a really passionate fan base, man. I've never seen one of my reviews.
And it's got heart as a game in some places.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of the few times where I see that real strong pushback on reviews like that YouTubers and press got it wrong type thing. It's a whole conversation. But yeah, it's like one of those games where like people were,
do you know what I always
reviewing
say, Maddie?
it before it came out saying, I don't believe this. Like there's too much that I like that I see here for me to buy into these reviews. And I'm like, all right, I get it.
Here's what you say, Maddie.
Shows well.
The day after that game comes out, if anybody says that to you, simply say, look up, because I bet you within 5 comments, somebody else says who bought it today doesn't like it. And that will happen. Consumers. There are consumers who don't like it. And I saw that in Reddit. Somebody was like, in one of the Reddits was like, I shouldn't have listened, blah, 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 I love it. And the person right below him is like, dude, I didn't, and I don't. And so they sort of take care of themselves in a way. You do get that pushback, but at the same time, that's going to happen. It's like the political question. You'll get pushback regardless, because if you would have loved it, right? You would have got pushback on that.
Ever since Cyberpunk, I think just the review landscape has changed a lot. It's why I keep tapping into the audience and seeing what people think of things. Like, I remember someone was saying, like, I got my, I think, was it my Cyberpunk review or Biomutant? It doesn't matter. They said I got a review wrong. And I was like, do you get a review wrong if I just sit down? Like, I know you can only trust me as much as you want to trust me. Like, that's up to the person. I feel like I've earned your trust. But, like, you know, I have no reason to sit down and lie. So if Carrick, myself, Skill Up, anyone sits down and says, like, I'm going to review the game, here's my thoughts, I think that's all you can ask for. I think that's when, like, I don't think you can be wrong with your opinion. I always say that reviews are glorified opinions. Subjective. And yeah, it really is. And there are situations, like, I think with my Phoenix review, I kind of hit the nail on the head. I was playing and I said, I'm probably going to be an outlier. I don't know. I didn't talk to anyone, but I said it before my review when I recorded it in the embargo period. I was like, I'm probably going to be an outlier here because I don't really like this, but I feel like there's things you will like. And it's like, that's all you can really ask for from most reviewers, is just the ability to just take a look at things.
I think some people get it wrong. I'll have to disagree.
Go for it.
I think that...
No, it's fine. I want to hear this.
Let's go. I think that I'm going to disagree in a way that actually you'll just agree with, but because we've talked about this. But I think there are people who are missing dramatic parts of the game when they're reviewing
thoroughness.
it. For example, Necromunda had huge audio issues, and there were multiple people who did not mention it. And by the way, these aren't bugs; they are actual systemic. Every single person had this for sure, and they were putting music in their reviews and sound in their reviews. And I'm like, okay, music, whatever. That's fine. Sound, no mentions. And I'm just like, I have no clue.
Now, what was I saw your tweets. I just wanted to ask, what was the sound? Just because I thought the sound was like, I gave it like, it was all right. Like, I was like, I don't really care much about it. Like, it didn't add anything.
What was the issues?
Yes, because I saw you saying something about like one headphone working. I didn't have that, but I don't know if
that was my joke. Because I firmly believe that most people who reviewed this game were playing it on a 1979 Sony TV with like fucking.
Why I gotta be the big back TV with the come on,
dude? Well, admittedly, I had one for a long time. But,
big back.
So what happened with that game is guns were layered correctly. And they were, but enemies weren't even playing their sound effects for 80-90% of the enemies. The sound files were not there. They were not there. I mean, and even the developer stated that in their data. They were like, we have a huge number of mastering and layering issues, and they were massive. And if you play the game on hard, that game is fast. We're not talking Doom, but very close to Doom speed if you play it fast with the grapple, which is how I play. There were entire times where I could not hear the enemies because they were not actually engaging, and I tested it on direct audio through as well as some fake
I'm gonna have to go
sound.
back
And there
to
were
my
people just
gameplay.
being like, oh, there was no issues, blah, blah, blah. There was no this and that. And I was like, listen, they were for sure there. And if they were there, I don't know any other, like, and that happened with Valhalla, by the way. Valhalla had huge audio issues. It had compressed audio, and people were breaking it down saying, here's the sword attack from Odyssey. And no lie, they were like, dude, if you know anything about audio, they weren't even like 48. They were like 16 kilobit. Some of the sound effects are horrendous in Valhalla. Do they affect every sound? No. But a person who's going to put it in their review should at least give the context of, say, why are they putting in their review if they're not picking up on that stuff? And that bothered me, especially in a game where I believe 3D audio matters because you're using it. Verticality wasn't actually in the game at all. They had to fix it later. So that's what my issue was. But ignoring that game, it's just, I think with the review, you can get it wrong. I've seen people who play 2 hours of the game and are like, here's the review. And you're like, dude, I'm sorry. But it's because you can name it something. And even people who've won by the way, I think Colin said this. Colin's like, we should do platinums. And I'm all, dude, if we do platinums, I'm going to 1-up you. I'm going to 10-up you. Platinums are nothing. I can get a platinum. I want you to explain the game's systems I want you to explain to me how people reviewed Returnal without understanding that the actual curve for loot was broken. And they fixed it, but there were people who were like, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, dude, it was so easy to draw it out. I was drawing it out on a piece of graph paper going, something's broken. Just finishing it isn't even the thing. It's like, whatever you say, give context in your review. And I think what I'm saying is people can mess up is they can pretend like they have context and then you're like, that context is almost
they can still miss the point. Kind of.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about mistakes; those will happen. I'm talking about where you start to see a systemic, where it's just like, I'm going to talk eloquently for a while, and then you start going like, what are you talking? That this isn't actually, you're not actually talking about a lot of the systems in the game. I saw people missing entire. Well, developer called them out. If you go to Steam forums, there was a couple reviews where people are like, there is no this and that skill. It was actually, you had to play the game for like 3 hours, and then that skill tab opened. And they were like, there is no skill. And you're just like, oh my God,
that's exposing.
That's some pain.
That's exposing.
And it happens. Though mistakes happen, stupid decisions happen. I'm not somebody who says you should be destroyed forever. I just think you should add as much context as possible.
Yeah, the context is important.
Money.
Yeah, absolutely. The
context is important.
I agree.
So I think we all agree on that, but I wanted to...
No, that's valid. You're making a valid point.
That happens sometimes.
You make a valid point.
All right, couple news bits left. Next up, Battlefield reveal happening June 9th. I don't got much to say on this one.
Yes.
I like Battlefield.
Huge.
Are you talking about me or sorry,
Huge.
Both of you guys. You guys are Battlefield fans? Oh, okay.
I fell off the Battlefield train a little bit. I loved it. 3 was my favorite Battlefield. I know it's a bit of a hot take, but I love 3, man. I thought it was so good. And
was 4 the jet plane?
Really,
4 was the China Rising with the Levolution and the
Levolution.
I like 4.
Yeah, 4 was pretty solid. I liked Battlefield 1 a little bit. It hasn't clicked with me as strongly since Battlefield 3. So
I'm with you.
I'm just hoping to see a good modern shooter.
That's where I'm at. No, me and Maddie, we right here because that's where I'm at. I just wanted to go back modern. That's all.
I agree. I don't have much to say on this one personally. I just hoping for it to show well.
Do you guys ever get confused sometimes between Battlefield and Battlefront? I do. Still, I know I shouldn't.
I get confused with the numbering.
Somebody will say, yeah, and then wasn't there an online-only version on the Xbox? Wasn't there a live version of Battlefront, like 1942? Battlefront 19 or something that was like
Battlefield 1942, and then there was like Bad Company, and then there was 5, and then they did 1 or whatever. I was like, what?
It's just like, and then remember Call of Duty Modern Warfare 1, and you're like, wait, or Modern Warfare 2 or whatever, and they were going back and forth, and I'm just like,
Infinite Warfare, and
Infinite Warfare, and then Advanced Warfare, going backwards. People, what are we doing? Like, name the shit. I guess people see the same thing with Xbox. You know, the naming of Xbox, they're the same way.
Right.
Yeah. Good point. Immediately when I said it, I was like, somebody's going to come at me because I'm one of those guys who's like, fucking who cares? But admittedly, I do get confused on all those, for sure.
A little bit more easy to talk about. Dying Light 2 received a batch of brand new gameplay alongside a release date of December 7th, 2021. The the name of the game has changed from Dying Light 2 to Dying Light 2 Stay Human. The game has been re-revealed multiple times, whether it be behind closed doors at E3 or to the public. Last we heard about this game was in a report from The Gamer, which wrote an expose on the culture created at developer Techland, with indecisive executives stagnating the development pipeline and calling for multiple rewrites of the story. The article even features comments from the CEO, Paul Marchuka, who is reportedly the cause of this back-and-forth strife, leading to obsessing over other games and rewriting the story with them in mind. Employees at Techland apparently had to contact Pal's wife to convince her husband to keep certain parts of the game or prevent any future changes because she worked there. So a lot of people were really excited what they saw with Dying Light 2. I love the first Dying Light 2. It's apparently coming this year, December 7th, 2021. I can't get excited for this yet, man. Once it disappeared for a while, everything adds up where I'm like, this game should not have gotten off the radar as long as it did. Obviously, Chris Avellone got canned. Makes sense why. So they had to figure that part out. I get that, man. But after that, it was just back and forth, back and forth. Here we are again. And it's like, man, if you're rewriting your story over and over, and this game is apparently one of choice and consequence, a dynamic gameplay, there's so much happening here that it kind of gives me that BioWare stink here. Like, I'm like, man, I've seen this before. Just like redoing the game in 2 years, and it looks great, but like once you get it, you're like, what? So I trust that the gameplay, like the parkour and stuff, will be solid, but it doesn't look like, from an animation standpoint, it does not look good. And that's coming from someone who can tolerate Elder Scrolls and Fallout melee combat, man. Like, that's saying something. It does not look like it's changed enough, but the parkour looks really solid. So I am in a staying position here. It's like, all right, like, you got my attention. I'll watch, but I am not excited yet. Gentlemen, am I alone?
Go ahead, Cognito.
Well, first, apologies. I live next to a firehouse and a major highway. Second,
I didn't even hear it.
I thought you heard. I was like, damn, that's loud. What I was going to say, the other thing was, I'm Maddie, I'm with you. Like, it just didn't resonate with me, and I'm just, I want to get into it, but what if something's not clicking yet? And, I'll give it a shot just to see. But, a lot of people I know really love the first one, and, they want to give it a shot.
It's great.
Really,
it's so good.
It's a huge following, like cult following for it. So I'll give it a shot. And the fact that this one has co-op, right, as well, correct? With this one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, they moved it to 4.
Now,
that's the first was 3.
Because I'm Lord Co-op, so I like that. So I want to get that in. I anything that's co-op, I'm always going to give it a shot. So that's where they got me this time to at least try it.
Are you married, Cognito?
No.
If you don't mind me asking.
Single.
So the reason why I bring it up is the wife thing cracked me up. Because... Yeah, I'm surprised he's not. Because the wife thing cracked me up about, like, people going to the wife.
You go to the wife and be like, yo.
My friends have been like, Dude, could you calm him the fuck down? So the idea of that reminded me of like moments where like my brother wouldn't talk to me because I can get really rambunctious with him, and I'm like, bitch, you know, you're still 9 at home, and you're like, let's fight. And instead, wives will talk, and you'll get like the, hey, should we do this? And you're like, that doesn't sound like it came from you. Here's the thing. I can't now get on this game for not releasing ready when I just said I want games to wait until they're release ready. So I'll stick with that and just say whenever they're ready. What I saw looked like a zombie game with parkour. So that's great. I worry like anybody else does, but because we don't have enough data, we've got a release date, which is nice. Like that's the nice part. Yeah. That's the nice part out of all this. But I think, to be fair, I want people to wait until something's ready. And they didn't think it was ready, and so they waited, and I don't know how much I can razz on them for that, even though it sucks for us as gamers who want it now.
Yeah.
Number 6, last bit of news. AMD's answer to Nvidia's DLSS is coming this month. AMD announced that the Fidelity FX Super Resolution, a technique designed to boost performance and image quality, is arriving June 22nd. Currently, 50 games support Nvidia's DLSS, which reconstructs images at a higher quality in real time. Meanwhile, FSR from AMD will support 4 levels of scaling and is open source, meaning it will run on Nvidia GPUs, and it should function with a number of game engines. Thought this was interesting. This one definitely flew under the radar a little bit. Not a big tech guy, as most people listen to this show know, but Nvidia having an open source competitor could be a pretty interesting move for the future. Carrick, I know you've talked a lot about DLSS here on the show. I wanted to pick your brain first and see what you make of what Nvidia's presenting.
I make that I'm gonna just absolutely hate testing games, because I ran through that it can be native, resolution scale, DLSS, DLSS plus AMD, AMD alone, DLSS alone, and DLSS and AMD now have 4 to 6 settings apiece. It's going to be ridiculous doing benchmarking. Like, ridiculous. But overall, it's awesome. Microsoft supposedly has support for it. I would assume Sony has their own style. Maybe they do. I don't know. There's sort of this discussion on which level each of the platforms is. I think the biggest news to me is not the cards. The biggest news to me is the consoles. Consoles have a tendency to age quickly. And the idea that it's pretty discernible. And I've done DLSS 1. That was like glaucoma. I get it. It was like you just instantly got diabetes and couldn't see. It was terrible. But you get DLSS 2, and guys, DLSS 2, well, Necromunda had it, and Necromunda.
I don't know how you spit that one out.
Because it's a character in my D&D game. Necromunda is a fucking baron in my D&D game for 10 years. It sounds like a town or a type of food doesn't it? Like, because I always had Ia.
It sounds like a new version of Nature Valley Bar, bro.
I'm with you, Maddie.
Let's grab some Necromunda before we go hiking. But no, I'll let Cognito go. It's super exciting for consoles and getting more power in the consoles, and it's also interesting to see it can be run with DLSS because it's open source, so it could also possibly run. Dude, technically, a company could put a Switch game out, and if it runs on if it runs on like an Nvidia card, depending on the level, like there's some weird stuff that you might see on tablets as well. It's pretty interesting. I'll just say that as a tech guy. So go ahead.
No, I'm with you, Carrick. Like, as a tech, this is geek heaven stuff for me. I love to hear about these new techniques and new technologies. We're hearing stuff with DLSS with the new Switch Pro, and then obviously with now in next gen consoles, because we had Jason Ronald on, and to hear his excitement when we broached, I think Saul broached him with the subject, was an amazing question. And he's just like bubbling. He's like frothing at what the potential of future could be. Look, at the end of the day, man, this is going to improve gaming. We're in this great space, I think, this generation where as the generation matures, we're going to start to see these techniques being implemented. And I feel bad for Carrick in his reviews, but for me, I'm excited
we're just hitting play.
He got work to do.
Do you guys think a console though may? I'm wondering if a game engine may run at a lower res and use it without like having a setting for the gamer. Do you see what I'm saying? So currently you can do performance, and what if they're like, here's our game, and then you look at it, and anybody normal will not notice.
Right.
But a tech, when you start counting pixels, there'll definitely be some telltale stuff. It's going to be very interesting to see what companies just say, hey, listen, we can get 200 FPS. I mean, dude, that's insanity. Like, it's pure insanity how much FPS boost you can get from some of this. So we could see some great first-person shooters with insane frame rates.
I'm excited, man.
Which is, that's going to be so good. I mean, dude, look at God of War 5 with 60, I mean, and then 120 in multiplayer, right? Wasn't that, yeah, dude.
Bro, I'm excited. Like I said, that was the thing. You know, last generation, I play a little bit more on PC than this generation because I saw, like I said, with NVMe and ray tracing, all this. I can't wait for my console brothers now. And like that's why I told my clan, they were mad at me. I was like, I'm playing Destiny over here where the frame rate's nice. But then when I came back, and they're like, yo, I get it. 60 frames. I get it. And I'm like, see, now you understand. And now that console's in that space, and then we're iterating, and we got all these great new techniques. It's going to be a fun generation, hardware-wise and technically, to see gaming go push forward, man. I'm excited for it big time.
Right on. Great batch of news this week. Really fun discussions. We still got our Game Pass pick of the week and Back Compat pick of the week. So we took your feedback into account.
We got to check with him, though. Do you have time?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
Bro, this is ILP light. Y'all rocking like ILP.
Are we in?
This is what I do.
Okay, I'm just making sure. I just wanted to check. We're like 3.5 hours. I just want to make sure.
We just went 5 hours on ILP last night. This is cake.
It's Ben and Dustin who we send our love and apologies.
Oh yeah, they got to edit this, don't they?
Sorry, Ben. Sorry, Dustin.
No.
Sorry,
I'm sure they.
Sorry.
I'm sure they. I'll send Ben a cake.
yeah. Bless that man. Please.
Right. Or an Amazon gift card.
I hope Ben likes cake.
A $5 Amazon gift card.
Yeah. We took your feedback into account. I'm going to say this again next week because I know this is pretty deep into the show. We did take feedback into account about Game Pass pick of the week, Back Compat pick of the week. For now, we're going to move with one for each section. Just not even per host, but just in general, because what happened was kind of like what Carrick put a spotlight on is like we're kind of overlapping at times and we're forgetting certain games that we've picked, and it's becoming too bloated where it's like, let's just give them we're giving quality picks, but let's give them a smaller amount that they can then try out and have a conversation with. If we're just throwing 4 games at them a week, it's a little too much now that we've seen how it runs long term. So I wanted to pass it off to our guest this week, Cognito, to kind of lead the charge on what he wants for you guys to try out on Game Pass and backwards compat picks of the week. So, Cog, the stage is yours. What should we get on Game Pass first and foremost?
Game Pass, I'm a little biased, but I got to do it. I want you guys to try Unto the End. It is a 2D game. It's by Two Ton Studios, a small team, husband and wife studio. And man, it is. Put it this way, if you're a fan of games like Another World, I think they're developed by Eric Chahi, by one person, where it's atmospheric storytelling. And the game's not...
Flashback?
Yeah, speak. You know where I'm going, right? So these are my games that I grew up... I love these games, these atmospheric games. The game doesn't hold your hand. It's not telling you. You're looking at the environment. The only difference here, it's a story of a father trying to get home to his husband, of his wife and his child. And at the end of the day, it's more combat heavy. So it's like picture Another World mixed with a little bit of 2D Souls, because the combat is really intense and you've got to study the enemy. And the other thing I will say, without spoiling too much, one of the most underrated aspects of the game is that there is a way you can, through the entire game, avoid any conflict through different scenarios. And it is amazingly done.
Weird.
Yeah, it's a very unique game. Unto the End. It's in Game Pass. Check it out. Big fan of those guys. So check them out. And then Back Compat, I'm gonna cheat. Back Compat, I'm gonna cheat because I'm a G1 Transformers guy, and I felt
Devastation.
I love Devastation. That was platinum. That's platinum. I love Devastation. Devastation's amazing. That's amazing. But this one was High Moon Studios, those guys over there. The original, The Fall of Cybertron and The War of Cybertron. Now, here's the catch. It's cheating because technically they're pulled from the store. So, but I was able to snag the physical versions from GameSpot. So you can still get them, and they work. Because if for whatever reason Activision tried to remaster, they pulled it off. And if you guys don't count that, if that's cheating, then my last suggestion for back compat is Tekken Tag 2. If anybody fighting game fans, especially with Virtua Fighters out right now, you got the fever. Tekken Tag, get your 4-player on. It's drop in, drop out on 360. It still looks great. Music's amazing. So those are my choices for back compat and Game Pass of the week.
Dude, Tekken speaks into my soul.
Oh, we Tekken guys?
I love Tekken. Yeah, man. I love Tekken. I realized with Tekken 7, because I played a shit ton of Tekken 6, man, when I was younger. And even Tekken 5.
Let's go.
But when I played 7, I was like, yeah. Outside of Dragon Ball Fighters, because I think Arc System is just like scientists, man. Like they are just in the lab making something special every time. But dude, all I'm saying is Tekken, the feel of that game, the 3D fighting, the impact, the roster, the movesets, like it just
speaks to my soul.
Tekken 7 just hits perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Literally and physically. So, man, it is a wonderful game. Adore Tekken 7.
Yes. One of my favorites.
And just Tekken in
like general. I said, Tekken Tag, man. Grab it up. If you can't play Virtua Fighters right now, you can still play Tekken Tag. Go back. That's where I'm at.
Perfect. Thank you, Cog, for bringing these recommendations to the table. Never heard of Unto the End, so that was, I think, a really good.
We've had them on. To the table. Amazing. I mean, like I said, husband and wife
Jesus,
team.
you've had everybody on.
I was going to say, has he brought up anyone he hasn't?
I'm out here name dropping. My bad.
No. How long you done the podcast?
Well,
how long have you?
We ILP officially probably officially 2017.
Wow. You guys have got way more guests than I think me and Carrick combined.
Well, we're lucky, man. We're very fortunate. We punch above our weight, but we've been blessed to have people come on the show.
No. You guys' stuff is awesome. I wouldn't have been on there.
I appreciate it.
Well, I mean, no, I'm not joking. I wouldn't have been on there. I mean, I would have been like,
appreciate both of you.
Dude, that's awesome. You guys have had, like, that does show the support I think that you guys deserve. Like, especially because I can't remember who it was when I first started, like, noticing, and then Addict was like, hey, I'm a fan. And then you never know if somebody really is, which is fine, right? And then I started seeing that you guys were doing a bunch of interviews, and Maddie and I joked, and I'm not as big into interviews just because sometimes you can dig the well a little too deep, but you guys not only dig the well pretty deep, and they answer, which was awesome. I noticed with some of your interviews, like people were answering, which was cool because sometimes they'll be like, I wanted to give a shout out for the Outer Worlds one because I don't necessarily think people do very many interviews for DLC. Yeah. That's the honest truth. And the fact that they were on there and like that kind of stuff is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's humbling, brother. Really it's humbling. Thank you. Because like, at the end of the day, just to trust us with the platform and just to learn stuff and nuances. Because I think as gamers, we truly don't know all that's involved with game development. And
absolutely.
I love to hear those stories and be educated on what really happens, especially the rumors, lazy dev and all this nonsense. And
oh my God. Yeah. We hear that way too much.
Yeah, man. We got 5 questions from the audience. Do we have the power to go through or do we cut it at 3 hours and 20? What do you boys think?
It's up to you guys. I have time. I just had to let my puppies in.
Probably kind of 2 from me. I just realized I do have a meeting. I just realized, like, oh damn, I do have a meeting.
Okay, so you want to cut here?
Pick the 2 best ones.
Two best ones.
Cut 2. Got you. All right, we'll make it up to the audience soon enough. Nah, dude, you're good.
3.5 hours. I'm not making up anything to the fucking audience.
I more so meant like we'll add a question at one point. Let's see here. I like this question here because it kind of taps into what Cog was saying about Transformers. Steve Forgione writes in, "Hey boys, another week passes and another reason for physical games continuing to rise, or the need for physical games continuing to rise. This time in the form of EA delisting multiple Need for Speed games from digital storefronts. Say what you will about their quality. I personally love Need for Speed Carbon, but when will companies begin taking archiving this medium seriously? Every time I see this happen, I truly clutch my physical games like metaphorical pearls, thinking about how game companies and even game enthusiasts are pushing for this all-digital future like it's a good thing. Digital games not only take away any sense of ownership, but companies can even take away access from you at any time if you violate their terms of service, regardless of how much money you have invested into the ecosystem. At the very least, they can create a system where games exist in perpetuity without fear of takedown. Hoping all is well, and Maddie, keep on the physical games crusade." Thank you, Steven. All right. I feel particularly strong about this one.
I know.
Well, it's one of those situations where then I pull myself back down to reality. Okay, I get it. I understand. I know the reasoning. I'm going to argue with myself for a sec. It's like, yeah, I understand deals go up. I know that there may not be as big of a demand for this game. I know it costs more to produce the disc. I know all this. But there is this fight of preservation. Like, it sometimes just boils down to that, which, yeah, it isn't like the most business savvy. It's not like the cost effective move. It's not. I know it's not. But there is that, I think, important emphasis on like, hey, we want these games to hang around. So I always say this. I grab my disc here and I go like, hey, here's this game I like. You can just put it in, try it, see how it works. This doesn't even touch into like DRM stuff that we've talked about and everything on the show. But I feel just really strong about the idea that, yeah, these companies should just, you know, I get it's a business. Like, you got to make your money, but you should care about preserving the shit that has generated your business, right? At the very minimum. I know it's not, you know, I know it's not like this super seller tactic. But I think at a point you got to just be like, hey, man, we got to keep these around. Like, you don't just work on them and throw them in the trash. It's the same way with when you hear, and this might just be lack of knowledge, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. Like, when you hear companies go, like with the Pinnacle Station DLC for Mass Effect.
That hurt. Yep. Preach it, man.
We lost it. We lost it. I'm like, you fucking lost it? How like, I don't care about the DLC, but how do you lose this stuff? Like, how does this actually happen? And I don't know the answer. I don't think really many people know the answer. They're like, yeah, it's just gone. It's like, well, fuck. Imagine that. My dog, he's just gone. Like, you know, I just lost him.
I feel you, brother. I feel you.
So, obviously, I have a pretty strong take on this one. You know, I know, Cog, you were talking about getting some games physical for avoiding that that delisting. So you can speak on this a little bit more recently than us.
Yeah, no, listen, it puts me in a weird spot because I am team lazy and love all my games digital and just sitting on my couch and not getting up and putting a disc. So that part conflicts with what I'm about to say, because there is it hurt because as a fan, like I said, with my, you know, the what you call a pick of the week, the back pat and all that stuff, it ended up being Transformers, Fall of Cybertron, and War for Cybertron. But if you look for them on the digital store, they've been pulled by Activision. So, which forced me now to get the physical versions of each game. And I'm like, wow, this is a situation from a game I love. You know, another one would be Marvel Ultimate Alliance, like the first one. Again, I just love those couch co-op type stuff. And, you know, so it is one of those things that I do wish there was a better job, because the reality is, you know, at any point it can be pulled. We've seen the Sony store for a little bit now. They've retracted with the Vita and stuff like that and the PS3 stuff. You know, it's a scary thought that it can happen. Now, you know, to Microsoft's credit, they've been like the forefront. They've been pushing the envelope as far as trying to keep this game preservation stuff alive and putting the disc and still having to download something. But at least it's still there, you know, where you don't have to worry about it as much. But it is something I think about. It is something that my eyebrow, you know, raises, like, yo, you know, let me get this physical just in case. And I will say, last one I'll say is, when it's something I truly love, I sometimes do get the physical because I want to have that collector's edition and the stuff that comes with it. Of course. And you want to celebrate that game. You want to give that, that trophy, you know, sort of the King trophy version of it, you know, kind of thing. So that's where I'm at with it, man. But it's a tough one because I do like digital. I do like the convenience of digital. That's what I was going to say. But what you got, Karen?
So Pinnacle Station corrupted on the hard drives, which is why. But there was no physical version of Pinnacle Station. True. So I think some of these, you'd be screwed. I also think that the one reason why most everybody I know who likes digital, when they like it, until the game goes away, is that the price doesn't raise like physical on eBay.
Yeah.
And I think what people are not taking into account is that the reason why a lot of people like digital is because they are coming away from a bad purchase physical. And everybody I know who dislikes physical or doesn't dislike, I don't know anybody who's like, I hate physical stuff. They just want both at minimum because they want their digital. And almost everybody I talk to, and I would say, I think everybody I've talked to who's been in this point has almost always come off a bad purchase, an expensive one. For example, I bought Panzer Dragoon Saga for the Saturn. That was $400 on eBay at the time. And it's gone up and down. Yeah, right? Yeah. So there's that, and I get that. I get preservation, but the preservation will most likely be digital. And at that point, who's going to run the store and the server size for that? And then they're going to make you pay anyway. There's all this stuff. Personally, I don't see as much of an issue with having both, but I don't really get too verklempt if it doesn't have it. I do dislike a game going away, but I also, if I didn't buy a game, I don't feel that I have the right to buy the game now if the game's not out anymore. I guess that's because I collected art all my life. So there's only a certain number, and then I don't have the right to say, I just want that now. It's like, well, you can't get it. But that's probably because I'm older. I think when you're younger, you may not have that. I guess it just depends on collector's mentality. We all want it, and it sucks. It does suck. But I'm not as tight about it. And I will say it's probably also because I've run into a lot of digital problems where that's why I would want physical. Because like a corruption or not being connected to the net and being like, fuck. However, I recently had 3 Xbox games mysteriously stop working physically, and I can't get them to install. And I don't know why, but they don't grab the digital version. Well, I do know why. They don't actually have the same meta. Like, there's different data. And right now, for example, Syndicate, I wanted to replay it, plugged it in. It gets about 3/4 of the way through the install, fails, but I can't grab the digital unless I rebuy it. So that's another thing companies need to do. They need to figure out a way where but they can't, by the way, because of DRM, because then everybody could just trade the disc. But I hate that because I installed it and I'm like, oh, I've got the physical. Oh, for fuck's sakes, that doesn't even work. Yeah. So no matter what, you're going to come out of it. Somebody's going to get shortchanged. Yeah. I think a little bit, which sucks. There's just no way to come out of it, unfortunately. It's tough. How many Need for Speed games were removed? I did see it, but I didn't look. Was it a lot?
I actually don't know because this is probably to EA's point, and I think it's totally fair. But I don't pay attention. I'm just like, I'll get Need for Speed when I get Need for Speed. If I want Need for Speed, then they delist it. It's like, well, now I kind of want to get it. Because
that's such a collector, dude.
I'm gonna be totally transparent. I'll call myself out. Yeah, it's fucking horrible. But it's like, no, it's like, hold on. Now I know this shit's limited.
Now you're like, gotta get it.
Now
I'm suddenly into Need for Speed.
Dying Light 2 limited edition without the disc, and you're like, sort of still need it.
No, hold on. I'm not that far gone.
Okay, you better not. You better not. Every goddamn version of a game better have the disc in there, by the way. I agree. And they don't
I agree.
Now.
State of Decay did it as well. State of Decay 2 was like, here's our special collector's edition. It was just all these collectibles, no game.
No game with it yet? Oh, they got the code?
Mass Effect did it with the Legendary Edition. They're like, here's our limited Steelbook, our Paragon Renegade helmet.
You know why it's called limited?
Art.
Because the game's not in there. It's pretty fucking limited.
Yeah, they legit limited it, right? Wow. Like, goddamn, bro.
Man, that's terrible.
Last question comes from Wade. It kind of stays on our topic, so I wanted to use this one. Hey, guys, I just got my Series X and want to get into some older titles to play like Jade Empire. Is there any reliable online platforms outside eBay that sell vintage games, or am I just going to have to suck it up and buy off of eBay? Thought this was a good question. Cog, you bought Transformers and stuff. I don't know. Your team lazy, you said. Lazy. I respect it. I'll allow it. But do you collect it all? Do you grab any physical games? And if so, like, where do you go?
I mean, NY, we had our spots, you know what I'm saying, back in the day. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, I mean, there's still something that exists. I mean, for us, it was always like the Penguin Villages, the St. Mark Street, that kind of stuff, the vintage game stores, things of that nature that, we would go in kind of like a Chinatown kind of area and get that stuff. Some of those places still exist. I actually defer to Solve. He's like our team preservation spots change up all the time. I know where to go. Solve. Yeah, Solve is the guy. Like he's the one I go to for that. So yeah, I still do that, man. There's some games and some things, I just want to experience, especially the vintage console side as well. Definitely as well. So yep, still do it.
I'll add in that pawn shops work as well. At least here, where pawn shops donation centers. We have a good Salvation Army, those kind of places here, and a DeSals, I think they're called, and they will take anything, and they'll give you a refund if the game doesn't.
Gotcha.
Nice. Interesting. I didn't know that. I will throw flea markets out there if you're able to get one.
Of course.
Flea markets. I've found games at every flea market I've gone to, and you can get some really good deals because literally people are there to haggle and a lot of times get rid of shit. And I've had instances where I'll just say someone didn't know quite what they had. And so, you know, this man puts down Champions and NORAD, Champions Return to Arms. He's like, he sees me eyeing him down. These games are like $50 each. And he comes over to me, like, he's acting like he's making the, it was like, I'll do it for 20. I'm like, what? I was like, here's my cash. See you, dude. Like,
Let's go.
You know, he went, oh, fuck.
When I said yes immediately. Yeah, he was probably like, damn.
Exactly. No doubt.
To answer Wade's question, outside of eBay, there's Mercari, MERCARI. Functions pretty similar to eBay, except the difference is you just make an offer. So you'll see, like, you can search up whatever listing you want. A lot of people sell games there. It's kind of my backup to eBay, where like if I'm looking for something, I'm like, those eBay prices look wrong. Go to Mercari, check it out there. OfferUp's another place I go to. I don't really like OfferUp. It's another app you can just download. I think they have a site. The difference here is there's no like listing timer. So when I first started doing it, I'd send messages to people like, hey, how much for this? And they wouldn't get back to me. I'm like, what the fuck's good with your ego, man? Like, why are you not answering? I'm trying to buy something from you.
What's up?
Yeah. And then I look and it says the listing was made 3 years ago. I'm like, oh, so you just left it here.
This dude is like, who is high and emailing me right now? By the way, Facebook and Amazon both. Facebook Marketplace is good, and Amazon. I buy games. I buy games from Amazon all the time. Really? You go in, it'll tell you the new price. Right below it, it says, you know, what price used, and and I buy an Amazon warehouse. By the way, now that's their entire thing. TVs, speakers. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to interject because I was scarred by Amazon. I remember I bought Wolverine's Revenge X2 on my PS2. Like this game a lot, man. I bought it $5, right? Dude, nothing. I'm like, hey, never showed up, nothing. I'm like, Amazon, come on, don't let me down, nothing. I'm like, dude, really? I never got my game. I still haven't got my game. It's gone. And they took my money.
Damn!
I thought you were going to say porn.
Oh.
Because I've seen that in Amazon. There was a mistake in somebody.
I would have been happy I got something, right?
And I thought it was like Wolverine XXX, right?
You're
and I was like, because you said you were scarred, and I was like, I already know.
I know what is going on.
I've seen people order shit.
Yeah,
and
little
be
does
like,
character know I'm innocent enough to be scarred by being sold.
Pirates of the Caribbean is the big one, by the way. Pirates of the Caribbean is a huge XXX. There's a XXX version, and the number of people who have bought it used and got the movie is very high.
I'm dead.
That's our last question for the show. Thank you, Wade. Thank you, Steven, for writing in. Apologies to the other three I had written down who will not be named. That we did not use your questions, but it's a 3.5-hour show, so I'm going to start to adopt Carrick's mindset here and tell you suck it up. We didn't rib anyone all show. You guys got a pretty generous episode, right? We didn't go at anyone. We were nice.
We didn't. Cognito sort of, I mean, he sort of like tamed us a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But the Lord's working.
Yeah.
Exactly. Mysterious ways,
baby.
Yeah. All right, Cog, it has been an absolute blast. For those who have stuck around this long, clearly they want to hear more from you. Where can they find you? What are you doing? What are you up to?
First off, the pleasure is all mine, man. I love you guys. This was an absolute blast. Yeah, man. I mean, on Twitter, man, at Lord Cognito, Iron Lord Podcast on YouTube. Check us out, lordsofgaming.net, to check us out even further. And every Sunday's the Lord's Day, man, 1 p.m. Eastern. We rocking. It's just a bunch of friends for the most part, childhood friends, and just gaming. We've known each other for years and just having a good time. And I think for us, the thing is bringing people together, getting different voices, even from people who some people don't agree with, just to get their perspective. And then the other thing is we like to celebrate not only our game creators, but our game developers, because at the end of the day, you know, learning how much it takes to put these games together is important. I think we need to celebrate those guys and girls, you know, in the industry. So that's going to be the mission. It's always going to be about that, bringing people together, having fun. People ain't having fun no more. Everybody's beefing and,
I know.
You can't be happy about this. And like, bro, it's gaming. Like from where I'm from, you know, man, you know, like, I'm New York City, I'm from the South Bronx, you know, was, the geeks were clowned. You know what I'm saying? Like the people who were in the games.
We talked about that.
We talked about it, right? Like they were in the games of clown. So to me, this is brotherhood. Like we're supposed to be together. We're all unified, regardless of what platform you're on and all that stuff. We may have our preferences, but at the end of the day, if you're a gamer, you're automatically my brother or sister because you do this thing that I love. And people have lost track of that. It's become tribalism. It's like gangs, yo, you bloody crap. Like easy. This is gaming. You know, we supposed to be together. But salute.
It's not cancer,
exactly.
Man.
But salute.
Damn. People take that stuff
seriously. But salute the Dukes. Because I like what y'all doing. I love the podcast.
Thank you, man.
Huge fan, both of you guys. And we'll definitely get you both back in the room again. Because
please do.
We'll have some fun.
It was a lot of fun, man.
Absolutely.
All right. Please check out Cognito. And I just want to throw it out there that you mentioned like how you do the show with close friends and stuff. And I want to let the audience know if you choose to listen, you will feel that. You will feel that, and it gives the show a different vibe. Not that like Carrick and I aren't friends, but like we have not met in person, where you can feel the difference in atmosphere in Iron Lords for sure.
Much appreciated.
It's an excellent show, and you guys cut deep, which is amazing. You know, you like the fact that we sat down for my episode and you like actually asked me questions about myself for 2 hours. Like, God damn, man! I thought it was gonna be like a 30-minute primer or something like that.
Did Maddie? Hey, did they give Maddie shit?
Yeah.
Like they gave me?
We gave it to him.
Because, dude, so they were asking me questions, and one of the guy in the tweet wanted King to give his. So they had asked King a question like the prior week, and King was like, "I'm gonna give you the answer." And so I was answering questions, and some dude's like, "Shut this guy up! I want to hear King, and I want to hear what King says about my question." I was like, "You bastards! They're the ones who invited me." Like it was awesome. It was awesome. They were all so cool
it's
though.
So
like
cool.
like, and that's the cool thing about our fan bases. This is the honest truth, man. There's a couple fan bases out there that merge, but they're also just really nice. And that's definitely what I've noticed about certain like podcasts and groups, that you'll see overlap or you'll just see a genuinely nice group of people, and that's definitely your guys' chat. And it's Maddie's chat, it's my chat. It's just, it's awesome. I was
gonna say, when we saw our audience overlapping into yours, that's typically a really good sign, right? Because
awesome.
not like even like business thing, it shows that like our audience are the good people.
The overall theme is probably gonna match.
Absolutely,
which is like having a good time versus.
And last point I'll make is I love when we got to do the top 5 with you guys as far as questions about your favorite games and passionate. And I love like when Maddie says it, you're like, oh, he's my guy because he likes, you know what I'm saying? Like, I love that stuff because that's that crossover and it's a
shared
connection.
Community, man.
Absolutely.
Right on. All right, it has been our longest episode yet. Cog, welcome to history, ladies and gentlemen. We hope you enjoyed episode 22 of Defining Duke. We will be back next. Well, I don't want to say next week. We might see you next week. We're going to continue our conversation with Dustin and Colin and figure out, of course, where we want to organize our E3 episode, because we don't want to have like a whole normal news episode drop and then it launches on the same day as E3. I already explained this. So you know where we're at. Just want to remind you one more time. We may not see you on our typical Thursdays on Patreon and Sunday. It may come after that. So keep an eye out for that. We'll give specific dates on the Patreon on my personal social media account. But until then, whenever that may be, we'll talk with all of you very soon. Peace out.
Peace out.
Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC, and is recorded from the good old USA. The show was conceived by Matthew Mr. Matty Plays Schroeder and me, Colin Moriarty, and is written and produced by Matthew Schroeder. Matty's co-host is Jeremy ACG Penter. Defining Duke's executive producer is Dustin Furman, and the show is edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's shows, including Defining Duke, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer support level or higher on Patreon, and we're grateful for your kindness and generosity.